Michael and Kathy Benedetto are suing Teresa Saavedra and her former friend Adam Rivas for an accident that damaged their vintage Nissan 300ZX. In a separate case, Teresa is suing Adam, claiming he stole her car, causing the accident in question.
This is case number 395 on the calendar in the matter of Benedetto versus Saavedra Rivas.
We have another case as well. Can I have that, the second one? Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Who is Miss Saavedra? And Mr. Rivas? Why don't you folks have a seat, please, first, because I'm going to take care of this case first. Miss Saavedra, stand over there, because this case is a little complicated. I'm going to uncomplicate it for everybody. You own a car.
Right.
Or owned a car. What kind of car did you own?
It was a Ford Taurus. Ford Taurus.
Mr. Rivas was your boyfriend?
No.
A friend?
Yeah.
According to your complaint, he stole your car.
Right.
You reported it stolen.
Right.
He was in an accident. Totaled the car?
Correct.
You want him to pay you the value of the car or $5,000 because it was worth more than $5,000, but that's the limit of small claims court.
Correct.
Mr. Rivas says that he did not steal your car, he borrowed your car, he had an accident that was not his fault, and he shouldn't have to pay for it. That's your defense?
Yes.
These are the people who were involved in the accident. So we'll get to their case in a minute.
Okay.
Because they are suing the two of you. You as the owner of the car, and he is the driver of the car.
Right.
You get it?
I got it.
Correct. So, Mr. Rivas, when did you take the car?
Actually, we drove off the lot together with it, and she gave me the car. It was a gift. It was a gift.
Is what you're telling me, sir, that you drove off the lot the day the car was purchased?
Yes.
Did this accident occur at that time?
No.
How much time passed before the accident happened?
I would say about 3 weeks.
Who purchased the car?
She did.
And in whose name was the car?
Under her name.
Who paid for the car?
She did.
And she gave you the car as a gift?
Well, actually, I gave the down payment, which was like $300 for it.
Why was that, Mr. Rivas?
Because we had an agreement that the car would be mine if, if she took the car out. And all I would have to do was give the down payment or the deposit for the car.
Ah, I get it. Mr. Rivas, why can't you have a car in your name?
Because I don't have a license.
Why else?
That's it.
Why don't you have a license, Mr. Rivas?
It was revoked.
When?
I was like 17.
How old are you now?
21.
And when did you make this arrangement with Miss Saavedra?
After 2 weeks I met her. We came to an agreement to go to drive time and take out a car.
Now, why would she do that for you if you were just friends?
I don't know, the kindness out of her heart, I guess.
Shh. Now, if I were to call drive time, would they tell me that the two of you were in there together?
Yes.
When was the car purchased, Miss Saavedra?
5/17/04.
From the time you drove the car, sir, May 17th, 2004, until the day of the accident, which was on what date?
It had to be a couple weeks after that. I'm not too sure.
When was the accident, folks?
5/7/04.
So you mean the accident was 5/7/04, and you purchased the car 5/17/04, so somehow that doesn't work out, Ms. Saavedra. Not even in the twilight zone of this courtroom. When did you purchase the car?
4/22/04.
Ms. Saavedra, look at me. Was Mr. Rivas with you at drive time when you purchased the car?
Yes, he was.
All right. You see, none of this was in this paperwork. Do you think you're going to come here and throw some baloney to me that he stole the car?
No.
All right. From April 22nd, 2004 until May 7th, 2004, Mr. Rivas, did you have the car in your possession?
Yes, I did.
And you paid the $300 deposit?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay by check or cash?
It was cash.
Who did you give the cash to?
To the car salesman.
You have a copy of the contract?
Yes.
Does the contract say that there was a $300 deposit?
Yes, right here.
And does it say the $300 deposit was in cash?
No, it does not.
It was by check?
It says the total cost of the purchase is on credit, including your down payment, which is $300. It does not say anywhere about being in cash.
You didn't give him a check, though.
No.
So Mr. Rivas gave him cash.
He never gave anybody money.
Mr. Rivas drove the car out of the lot.
No, he did not.
Did you ever have the car in your possession from April 22nd until May 7th?
Yes, I did.
When?
The day that I drove it off the lot, and about a couple of days after, and then I stopped, and then I met up with him, and then we...
What do you mean you stopped?
I just thought I wasn't able to go. I didn't go anywhere, so I was in my house. And then he called threatening me to kill me. So then
Miss Saavedra, do you think that I believe anything of what you're telling me now? I believe him. I believe him that you went to this drive time, because you didn't tell me anything about that in the paper. What you said in your complaint was he stole your car, and you reported the car stolen. And that's not what happened, is it?
Well, it is.
That's not really what happened, is it?
No, it is what happened. I have a police report and everything that I had made.
On what date?
5/14/04.
On the 14th of May?
Yes.
That's a week after the accident.
But he had took the car already.
A week after the accident, you reported the car stolen? When did he take the car? Miss Saavedra, don't play around with me. When did he take the car?
I don't know the exact date, ma'am, but I just know he had took the car.
Well, why didn't you...
Just
a second. Why didn't you report it stolen the day he took the car?
I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And I had called him on his cell phone telling him he would bring it back, and he said that he will bring it back.
I don't believe you. I think you're full of baloney. I think you entered into a scam with him because you knew he had a suspended license, whether you liked him or not, whatever. I have no idea, nor do I care. But you went... You drove this car out, he took possession of the car, he drove the car, he had an accident, and now you're stuck with the payments. That's what happened. And then a week after the accident, you reported stolen to the police.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The word you're saying to me, not a word. I think you got yourself caught in a scam. You did the wrong thing. That doesn't mean you're relieved, sir. You still drove this car. You had no right driving any car because you had a suspended license.
And later today...
Hopefully he didn't hit anybody else's car on the way over.
He's an idiot. What do you want me to do? I can't execute him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Teresa Saavedra is suing Adam Rivas for taking and wrecking her car. In a separate suit, the Benedettos are suing Teresa and Adam for damage to their classic Nissan 300ZX.
Now.
Can I say something, ma'am?
Go ahead.
Why would I honestly give anybody my car keys, you know, a brand new car?
Because, Ms. Saavedra, I do not believe you had any intention of this being your car. I believe that the intention was for Mr. Rivas to use this car to make the payments on the car because he had no license and he got you as a patsy to put the car in your name. That's what I think happened. And then when you realized that the car was in an accident and you were going to be in real trouble, a week later you reported it stolen to the police. You didn't report it stolen a week before the accident. Let me see a copy of the police report.
He would go around my house honking, screaming my name.
I don't believe a word you're saying to me. Not a word, Ms. Saavedra. I think you got yourself caught in a scam. You did the wrong thing. That doesn't mean you're relieved, sir. You still drove this car. You had no right driving any car because you had a suspended license.
Yes, I understand that.
Well, where are you going to accept responsibility for that?
Take responsibilities for the car accident.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
It's not what you say here. You tell me that this lady was driving. She was drunk. That's what you said in your answer. I'm going to get to that case in a minute.
Okay.
What about this lady's car? We're not on this case yet. You drove the car. You had no insurance?
No.
Why didn't you pay for insurance?
Because,
Because it wasn't your car.
Correct.
Because it was in her name.
Correct.
Right? So the only one who's going to get stiffed was her, right?
Correct.
How much was the car?
Total cost of the car was $18,569.96.
And you had no insurance?
No.
Well, maximum that this court is allowed to award you, let me see those papers, Bird, please.
Sure.
Is $5,000. You're on the books for the rest. Do you work?
Not yet, ma'am.
Not yet?
No.
How old are you?
22.
When are you going to start to work?
I just moved and I quit my job and I moved and I'm looking for a job now.
And what about you?
Not right now. Not at the moment.
Who feeds you?
Myself.
That means that somebody's got to give you money for food.
Well, I'm living under my parents' roof right now, so.
How old are you?
21.
What do your parents do for a living?
They own their own landscaping company.
Good. Are you disabled?
No, no, ma'am.
Then you work for them in cash. Because if they own their own landscaping business, I guarantee you I'm going to find a couple of people whose lawn you mow. Mr. Rivas, do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
On your best day, you're not as smart as we are on our worst day. How many people do you think I'm going to find whose lawns you mow, Mr. Rivas?
Not too sure. Not too sure, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Your father mows people's lawns?
Yes, ma'am.
How many people does he have working for him?
About 10.
Are you on the books of the company? Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you're on the books of the company, then you get money. What's the name of the company?
Rivas Landscaping.
Rivas Landscaping. Very easy.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe her $5,000, sir. But it doesn't go to her, it goes to the finance company. Now you can stand over next to him. Because now you're a co-defendant as the owner of the car, who I just figured out was full of baloney when she said the car was stolen. The car was part of a scam. You didn't think it was a scam because you're too young and stupid, but it was a scam. Now you may stand up. Mr. and Mrs. Benedetto?
Yes, ma'am.
On what day was the accident? The 7th
Of May.
May 7th.
Were either one of you hurt?
No.
You want to tell me what happened?
I pulled out of the gas station. When I get gas, I usually toss my wallet in the car. Well, when I got in the car, I drove off, drove up the street, and I didn't see my wallet there, so I figured it had bounced. So I pulled over, and when I pulled
over where?
I pulled over on the side of the street.
Is it a street where you can pull over? It's where cars are parked?
Right, where you parking. So I pulled over and got out of the car, went around to see if the wallet had fallen off to the side, because if it hadn't and it had bounced off, then I needed to go back to the gas station. So I put my knee on the seat, and next thing, there was just this big bang on the side of the car, and the car started to go over. In the meantime, I went over to the side as the car is going over.
You weren't in the car, you weren't in the driver's seat?
No, I was in the passenger seat.
You weren't moving at the time?
No, I was not moving.
What happened to your car?
It went over on the side. And
Can I see pictures of it?
Sure.
Who else was in the car with you?
Nobody. It was just me. I was on my way to meet my dad.
This is your husband?
That's my husband, yes.
So he is the co-owner of the car?
He is the owner.
Ooh, that's a nasty hit. I'm listening.
From what I recall, I was going straight down Devonshire, and
Where were you going, sir?
I was going home.
From where?
From one of my friend's house down the street.
What were you doing there?
I was just chilling.
What?
Chilling, kicking it.
Oh, the parents must be so proud of you. Go ahead.
And I was driving down Devonshire, and she just pulled out, because I was going straight on, and she pulled out, and I hit her.
Well, she pulled out and you hit her, so you would have hit her in the front. You hit at the rear of her car. How could you have hit her in the rear if she was pulling out?
Because I guess she was already on her way, and I guess I hit her in the back.
So if she's already on her way and you hit her in the rear, that means you weren't looking where you were going. Maybe you were chilling a little too much, kicking it a little too much with your friend. Maybe you ought to get out there more often and mow a few more lawns. Mr. Rivas, from Rivas Landscaping. When was the last time you filed tax return?
It's
not an answer.
I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever filed them.
The police came to the scene, Mr. Rivas. You were arrested, were you not?
Yes, I was.
What were you arrested for, Mr. Rivas?
I was arrested for driving without a license.
What else?
That's it.
You have any other warrants outstanding when you were arrested? It's not an answer, Mr. Rivas.
Yes, I did. I did.
Mr. Rivas, you're still trying to get over on me, sir. I've been a judge longer than you've been born. You think you're an unusual story? You're not. You're just a punk who caused a great deal of trouble for a lot of people because you're not entitled to drive a car if your license is suspended and you have no license. You conned this lady, so now she's in the hole for $13,000. You injured these people, their property. You almost killed her. There's a reason why the government didn't give you a license, sir. Because you shouldn't have one. Because you're an irresponsible baby. Oh. Are you an only child?
No, I'm actually the middle child.
There's also a problem with that. Were you able to have the car fixed or was it totaled?
It was totaled.
What kind of car was it?
1987 300ZX.
Do you have a Blue Book value for the car?
Blue Book is roughly $3,500.
Can I see that?
I'm sorry, that was $3,400.
Can I see that?
And I also have some comparables.
That's all right. I know the car.
I should mention that we did a great deal of additional work in that we changed the starter, the alternator, the water pump.
He's an idiot. What do you want me to do? I can't execute him. The only thing I can do for you is humiliate him a little bit and give you a judgment. What else am I going to do with him? His parents are not going to be proud of him. Rivas Landscaping and the people whose lawns he mowed are going to know that he's an idiot. If they see him driving around in a truck, they're going to know he has no right to do that. Anybody who lives in the neighborhood, when they see him driving a car, is going to call the police now and say there's somebody driving without a license, right? Do you understand?
I understand.
There was a reason he was late for court today, right? He was thinking, am I going to be dumb enough to go to court? What's going to happen to me? He had no clue how far it was going to go.
Hopefully he didn't hit anybody else's car on the way over.
Hopefully, sir. Hopefully. I'm not so sure. You got lost on your way coming here, Mr. Rivas?
No, I didn't.
How did you get here today? Is not an answer.
I got a ride.
You got a ride? Who drove you? There's a guard outside. Who drove you?
I don't remember her name.
Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500, which is a little over the Blue Book value of your car, you are a menace, sir. You don't deserve to be behind the wheel of a car. If anybody in your neighborhood, if anybody in the vicinity sees you behind the wheel of a car, I assume you do not have your driver's license?
No.
Is that right? Call the police, everyone. He's a menace and does not have a driver's license, nor will he probably get one for a very long time. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
18-year-old John Banks Jr. is suing 16-year-old Diana Helzer and Diana's mother, Lori, for the cost to go to his prom. John says Diana stood him up.
All rise. Now, this is case number 173 on the calendar in the matter of Banks Jr. versus Helzer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You are suing Mrs. Hessler because her 16-year-old daughter, according to you, stood you up for the prom.
Yes.
For your senior prom. And you had a lot of expenses, and you believe that her mother is responsible for her standing you up.
No, not necessarily, Your Honor. I don't
Well,
feel
she's
that...
responsible because you can't sue her daughter, so you have to sue her mother. It also says that her daughter did not stand you up, that you didn't contact her as you should, but she has a substantial counterclaim, and her counterclaim is that since you believed you were stood up for the prom, you have embarked upon a course of conduct that amounts to harassment and defamation of her daughter's character, which forced her to leave school because she flunked all of her finals, and it became a catastrophe, and she has a counterclaim. When did you invite Dana to the prom?
About May 20th.
Did you do it in person?
No, ma'am. I was introduced to her through a friend of mine. It was her best friend, and I was on the internet, and she instant messaged me. She sent me a message, and...
Who did?
Diana.
Diana sent you a message?
Right.
Saying what?
Just starting a conversation, just, hi, my name is Diana, something to that effect.
So you didn't ask her to the prom?
I did. Eventually, I did.
In person or over the internet?
Over the internet and in person.
Is that right?
I don't remember him asking me in person to prom, no.
How do you believe he asked you to the prom?
Over the internet, we were discussing the fact that he needed to date, and he said, you know, do you want to go with me, basically? And,
And what did you say?
I said, okay.
You said, okay, so now you had a date. And you knew when you go to the same school?
Yes.
So you knew when the prom was?
Yes.
Okay. So you had to buy, you rented a tux?
No, I bought a tux.
Bought a tux. Figure stopped growing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Buy tickets?
Yes, Your Honor.
Rented a car?
No, I was gonna drive.
Okay. Tux, tickets. What else?
I also had dinner reservations there was no fee for making the reservations, but there was for canceling reservations.
And what were all your expenses?
My expenses totaled to be, I believe, about $500 and some odd dollars.
Now, did you end up going to the prom, Mr. Banks?
No, ma'am.
Did not?
No.
Tell me what happened. What was the date of the prom?
Saturday, June 4th.
And just prior to June 4th, when had you last spoken with Diana?
June 3rd.
Where did you speak to her?
I spoke with her at school.
What did you say to her, and what did she say to you?
I informed her that I'd be getting everything ready. And
did she tell you what color her dress was?
Yes, it was pink.
Did she tell you what kind of flowers she liked?
No, ma'am.
Did you get the flowers?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of flowers did you get?
I got a bouquet of roses, and I got a corsage and a hand thing. I don't know.
The whole 9 yards?
The whole 9.
Did you tell her what time you'd pick her up?
Yes, Your Honor. I told her I'd be there to pick her up at 4.
So what happened, Mr. Banks?
Saturday, I had been running around picking things up, doing everything, getting everything ready. I hadn't spoken with her, but I had been speaking with her best friend, the one that set us up, and my best friend, because we were going to double date to prom. I had been with her friend's date all day, and I was on my way to pick her up, and I got a phone call from her friend saying that she had an allergy attack and she couldn't go to prom.
What time was that?
I'd have to say about 3:50.
Go ahead.
I was getting ready for prom at about 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Got dressed, went and got my nails done, and made my hair appointment, and went and picked up my dress. When I was getting my nails done, I did have an allergy attack, and I went home and I tried to call John after talking to my mom. I called him, and his sister answered, saying that he would be out with friends all night. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stay home for a while. A friend of mine called and said, Diana, or aren't you going to go to prom? And I said, no, I don't feel good. She says, would you like to come over, hang out, and we're not going to go do anything? And I said, okay. We ended up going over to another friend's house, just relaxing and watching movies the rest of the night, and we fell asleep.
Well, that's pretty outrageous, my dear Diana. That's pretty outrageous of you. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
You agree with I disagree.
Excuse me, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to your daughter, whose conduct was outrageous. Now, if you have an allergy attack and you are bedridden and staying home, that's one thing. But to go over to a friend's house, hang out and watch a movie is something entirely different. And I would be angry, too, if I got stood up at the last minute.
I had not yet given my permission for them to go.
I don't care.
Okay.
Whether you gave your permission or not. Did she use her own money to buy the dress?
Yes, she did.
And you didn't know about it?
I did know about it.
All right. And when you found out about it, did you say to her, I haven't given you permission?
Yes, ma'am.
When she went to get her hair and nails done, did you say to her, don't bother to have your hair and nails done because I haven't given you permission?
What I said was I haven't yet met Mr. Banks and I haven't given my permission. I need to meet him.
Miss Helser, it's not an excuse. I'm saying that your daughter's conduct was reprehensible for a 16-year-old. She stood him up for his prom.
Okay.
And she stood him up not because she was sick, because she decided she didn't want to go. And she went to a friend's house and hung out with friends. And that is reprehensible.
Is that what you did?
No.
Is that what you did?
That is what I did.
You didn't know that?
Did you stand him up because you didn't want to go, or did you stand him up because you went and had an allergy attack and then went over to Julie's house?
It was because I had an allergy attack, and my friend had wanted me to come over because she knew I wasn't feeling well and wanted to hang out.
Listen to me. If you have a debilitating allergy attack, you stay home. Go ahead.
That Saturday was prom, June 4th. June 5th, I broke my rib, June 5th playing basketball, and so June 6th, I stayed home, which was a Monday. I called her best friend on the phone. We talked about it because she felt bad as well because she set us up together. And I decided to call Mrs. Helser, and we spoke on the phone for a while. She was a really nice lady, and she also felt that what she did was inappropriate. And I know that she's not legally obligated to pay me back because, you know, it's an agreement to go to a social event, and that's not a contract. However, her mother being of age and me being of age, she did make a verbal contract over the phone, and I have a witness here. Her best friend is here to testify because she was on the phone when I called her.
What did her mother say?
We spoke about what Diana really did on prom night.
Well, what did you say to her mother? Her mother's here. She's a party. You can tell me what you said to her mother.
I told her that I had an agreement to go to prom with her, and she informed me that she was aware of that Diana actually had an allergy attack. And I told her no, that Diana actually decided to spend the day with her boyfriend because I guess apparently she got a boyfriend that morning and he asked her not to go.
She got a boyfriend that morning?
Yeah, Saturday morning she got a boyfriend and she decided, and he asked her not to go. So, you know, and that's perfectly fine. But
are you saying that somebody knows that? That you have a witness here?
That I was on the phone and that she told her that? Yes, I have a witness here.
I'd like to see the witness.
Kayla.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She told me she had spent the night at her boyfriend's house.
What boyfriend?
His name is Jason.
Did you tell your mother that? Look at me. Did you tell your mother you were going to spend the night with Jason?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old John Banks Jr. says 16-year-old Diana Helzer stood him up for his prom. Diana and her mother Lori are countersuing for the cost of summer school classes and defamation of character.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes.
State your name for the record.
Kayla Brett.
Kayla, are you a friend of hers?
Not anymore, but I was.
Were you the girl who was supposed to double date with them?
Yes.
You had originally set them up? Did you have a conversation with Diana with regard to why she didn't go to the prom with him?
Yes, I did. I called her to make sure that she was ready to go because John was on his way, and she had informed me that she did not want to go.
Did she say why she didn't want to go?
She said she had an allergy attack, but as I continued to talk to her later on that day, before my date came to pick me up, she told me that, or I think it was June 5th, that she told me she had spent the night at her boyfriend's house.
What boyfriend?
His name is Jason.
So she said she spent the evening with Jason?
Yes.
Prom evening with Jason?
Yes. She also had, there's a website called MySpace. I don't know if you're familiar. It's
I don't do that machine.
It's a website where you go and you can write journal entries on there, leave comments for friends, and post pictures up there. She had left a blog explaining what she had done that day, and she said that she was at a friend's house roasting marshmallows and she had spent the night there. That's basically confirmed that what she was doing, and I did have a conversation with her, and I was quite upset, and I told her everything, how messed up it was that she had done that.
That's pretty messed up. Did you tell your mother that? Look at me. Did you tell your mother you were going to spend the night with Jason?
I told my mom I was going to spend the night over at Julie's, and I told my mom that we were going over to Jason's to watch a movie. And
your mother just said the word Julie. I never heard your mother say Jason. Your mother was whispered to you, you went to Julie's.
I did go to Julie's, ma'am. We went over to Jason's, who was not my boyfriend.
Just a second. So from Julie's house, you went to Jason's house? Mm-hmm. Didn't have an attack in between getting from Julie's house to Jason's house, did you?
They're neighbors, no.
Didn't have an attack between Julie's house and Jason's house, did you?
No, ma'am.
And she did call me and checked in, and she called at midnight and let me know that they were just about to finish up a movie and that she would be back at Julie's by 1.
When you spoke to Mr. Banks on the phone 2 days later, did you tell him that you would compensate him for his expenses?
No, ma'am, I did not.
What did you say to him?
I said I needed to see receipts.
So you did discuss expenses?
We discussed expenses.
Fine, and you said I needed to see receipts.
Before I would even consider a discussion.
I don't believe you.
Seriously.
I don't believe you. Yep, I believe that you said to him, I will pay those expenses, but I have to see receipts.
I have emails here where he's saying that I agreed to pay $270 for prom tight. Diana said, quote, Diana said she's going to pay me $270 for prom. Hit me up. And then to Kayla, who responded, I say $300 even. What's an extra $30?
Listen to me. All I said to you was you had a discussion with Mr. Banks, and you are under no legal obligation. I don't believe you are under a legal obligation, but for the fact that you agreed to pay him.
I didn't agree to pay him.
Your Honor.
Just a second. In order to have a contract, Mr. Banks, let me explain something. It gets to be a little bit tricky. There has to be, in order to have a valid contract, there has to be some consideration. That means that each person is giving something. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
What would be the consideration, in your judgment, for Ms. Helzer to make an agreement to pay you any part of your prom expenses?
I think she felt morally obligated. She still stated to me that Diana had just gotten a job. I didn't know Diana had a job. She said Diana had just gotten a job and that she'd make Diana pay me back my money as long as I had receipts. And I have receipts here right now.
Just a second. So she said she would make Diana pay you back?
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe you.
18-year-old John Banks Jr. says 16-year-old Diana Helzer stood him up for his prom. Diana and her mother Lori are countersuing for the cost of summer school classes and defamation of character.
Go ahead.
I was on the other line. He had three-wayed Miss Helser. While I was on the phone, she did say that Diana would pay for the expenses out of her own paychecks because she had just gotten a job.
That's not true. What I said was I would consider, based on seeing the receipts, and whether or not you were on the line.
Miss Helser?
Yes.
I'm going to flip over for a moment to your counterclaim, which I'm prepared to hear in 30 seconds or less. He's got a claim for maybe $500. He's got receipts that totally says maybe $500. You have a $4,000 counterclaim because,
yes,
according to you, your daughter was harassed, defamed, etc. She flunked all of her finals, because of what he did. So you
yes.
want to get there, please? Diana?
Yes, ma'am.
Start with the ad.
I had been on MySpace and I saw an ad that Kayla had posted about paying people to kick my...
Read it directly.
Just as you don't have to read it to me.
Okay.
What does that have to do with him if Kayla wrote something?
John had confronted some girls at school about...
Don't tell me any hearsay. I don't want to hear any hearsay.
See it.
He had been talking to Kayla on the conversation that I have in front of me about two girls that are going to beat my... and that basically I would look better if my was kicked.
What else?
Okay. In this email, he's saying that she'll look even worse after getting her beat. The girl that's going to beat her is Jason's ex-girlfriend, because her and Diana used to be friends, and she thinks that's f***ed up, that she's with her ex. Oh, well, whatever the reason is, she wants to beat her. It'll work. Hit me back.
What does that have to do with him?
This is his word saying that
I don't care.
he's
What does
got
that have
two
to do with
girls.
him? According to that email, Jason, the new boyfriend, had an ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend of Jason is going to beat her up.
He's got two girls at school ready to beat my daughters.
No. Listen to me. What you just read to me was that the girl is Jason's ex-girlfriend who is angry with her. He may not discourage it. He may even like it. But that's what you just read to me.
I disagree.
Well, I don't care what you agree with, Miss Helser. I would listen to you if you took responsibility for your daughter's bad behavior and said to me, listen, this was a teenage thing. I feel responsible for my daughter's bad behavior. My daughter blew him off, and he was a very nice young man. And he I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Well, he was a very nice young man. He called you 2 days later. He called you most respectfully. Otherwise, you would have hung up on him. He called you most respectfully and said to you, this is what your daughter did, and it was not the right thing to do. So he was most respectful. And if you came into court, or didn't even have to come to court, if you said to him, look, I think what my daughter did was reprehensible, and I'm going to do the best I can to cover your expenses, and I'll make my daughter pay me back for whatever your costs were, because what she did was immature. She's only 16. But also unkind. And I don't raise my child to be unkind, an unkind human being, then I would have respect for you instead of making excuses.
I'm not making excuses.
You did make excuses, because I didn't hear you say to me at any time, he's a nice young man, he tried to do the right thing. My daughter did the wrong thing. My daughter was not hospitalized. She did not seek doctor's counsel that day or the next day. She went out with her girlfriend, Julie, and her new boyfriend, Jason, and they hung out together until after midnight, and it was not the right thing to do when he was supposed to pick her up at 4 o'clock, and between 4 o'clock and midnight, she was not, I'm speaking, and between 4 o'clock and midnight, she was not in an emergency room.
We did not have any idea when he would arrive to pick her up.
Madam, you are operating somewhere in La La Land. Your daughter knew he was going to pick her up at 4 o'clock.
Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you did. Because you spoke to her and you were supposed to double date. So don't give me baloney. Let me see the receipts, please. Did you flunk your classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you leave school?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what happens when you do the wrong thing. You didn't give the flowers to anybody else, did you?
No, Your Honor.
You're even, my dear, going to pay for your own flowers because I think that your mother made an agreement with him to do that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $415. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are
Counterclaim is
excused.
dismissed.
You may step out.
25-year-old Daniel Bryant is suing his former friend, 21-year-old Joseph Kyle Lineker, for medical bills due to an assault. Daniel says during a drunken argument, Kyle kicked him in the face.
Now, this is case number 281 on the calendar in the matter of Bryant versus Lineker. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Bryant, who is this lady?
This is my mother.
You can sit down. Thank you. I gather your mother was the only one who wasn't drunk on the night of July 16th.
Yes, and she insisted on being here, so.
Good. How old are you, Daniel?
I'm 25, Your Honor.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a personal trainer, Your Honor.
Full-time?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor. It's considered part-time, but yes, I work full-time.
How many days a week do you work?
I work whenever I have clients. It could be weekends, nights, anytime.
What do you do the rest of the time, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm also a full-time student.
He forgot that. Who's paying for his school? Raise your hand. He forgot. Now, how old are you?
21.
How do you manage to keep yourself busy during the day?
I sell real estate.
For whom?
My father.
Are you married or single?
Not married.
And you?
I'm single, Your Honor.
And who is this young lady?
That's my girlfriend.
Well, if it's your girlfriend, then you're single. Got it. Now, was your girlfriend at this party on July 16th?
Yes, ma'am.
She drunk too?
Not drunk, no.
Had she been drinking?
Yes.
And who was this person over here?
That's my friend Joey.
Was Joey drunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were drunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were drunk?
Alcohol was involved, Your Honor.
Daniel,
Yes.
your complaint seems to say you acknowledge being so drunk.
Alcohol was involved, yes, but I wouldn't say we were so drunk, Your Honor.
I'm not talking about them. They acknowledged they were drunk.
Okay.
I'm talking about you.
Yes.
Were you drunk or sober?
I was drunk.
How come it took me 3 minutes to get there? 1 second would have been enough.
I'm sorry.
It is your complaint that this young man, Joey, didn't want you to drive home from the party because you were all drunk.
Correct.
Whose house was this party at?
It's Kyle's house.
Yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
Oh,
it's not an answer.
3 roommates.
Is it your house or is it a rental house?
It's rental.
How many people were at this party?
About 8 or 9.
So Joey didn't want you to drive home. He tried to stop you, and according to your complaint, in the scuffle that ensued, you were injured. But you were injured not by Joey.
Correct.
You were injured by the defendant who, according to you, kicked you in the face and severely injured you.
Yes,
You want
facial
your
fracture.
bills paid, and the defendant says there was no way that he kicked you. You were injured in the course of a struggle because you were all out of control that night.
Right.
So what time did you get to this party, Daniel?
I'm guessing maybe 5 or 6 o'clock.
Where did you come from?
I probably came from work. I'm really not sure. I honestly don't remember, Your Honor, whether I came from home or I came from work. But I did go over there on the night of July 16th, around 5.
So you don't know whether you came there directly from home, directly from work, whether you had been out for the afternoon, whether you'd been working for the afternoon. You don't remember that, but you remember going over there about 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
What time was it that this altercation took place?
I would estimate maybe around 10 or 11 o'clock that the actual altercation took place.
And between 5 and 6 and 10 or 11, you were all drinking?
We were all socializing, yes.
I didn't ask you whether you were socializing. I asked you whether you were drinking.
Okay, yes.
Anybody using any soft or hard drugs?
No.
There was a slight hesitation there, Daniel.
Well, I had to think that the question you asked me was pretty... no, we did not do drugs.
Except alcohol.
Alcohol and cigarettes.
Any funny cigarettes?
No funny cigarettes, Your Honor. I promise you.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely, there was no drug there that night.
So you were just all looped on alcohol. What was your drink of choice that night, Daniel?
We had mostly consumed...
No, not we. I said
I
you.
mostly consumed beer, Your Honor, with a little bit of liquor, probably.
What kind of a little bit of liquor?
Probably vodka, Your Honor.
Did you make the vodka with the beer, or were you drinking it sort of separately?
Probably separately, Your Honor.
But there came a time when you didn't remember anymore whether you were drinking it separately or together. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
Well, I asked you whether you were drinking the vodka and the beer together, sort of mixed together, and you said probably separately. Now, as someone who is reasonably conversant in English, probably separately means it could have been mixed together.
Correct, Your Honor.
Now tell me what you remember as
Okay.
having happened between 10 and 11 after 5 to 6 hours of drinking with a mix of vodka and beer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me what happened.
Even though alcohol was involved...
No, just tell
Okay.
me what happened.
Joey and I started to get into it because he would not allow...
That's Joey. Joey?
That's Joey Lewis on the end.
Joey.
He would not allow me to drive home, which is commendable. And he grabbed my keys and threw them in the front lawn. And, of course, I became enraged. And I said, no, you're not going to throw my keys in the front lawn. So I started a physical altercation with him. And we didn't throw any blows at each other. Like friends, we wrestled it out. We were grappling on the floor near the front door. And the two girls that were upstairs were watching, and Kyle was up there watching. And as I was on all fours, and as I opened up to my left, it wasn't then until I received a kick to my face.
And my other roommate was there.
Shh. Stop. And I know it wasn't the two girls because she had on flip-flops or sandals, and the other girl had on cowboy boots. And the cowboy boots would have pierced my skin. And he was actually behind me to my left as I was on fours. And it wasn't until I opened up till he came in for the kick. And it was very intense. I didn't feel any pain because the adrenaline and the endorphins kick in. But the impact was very, very intense, and there was no way he could have done it lying on the ground because your momentum, if you're lying on the ground and you throw a punch in the air, you can't get your body weight into it, you can't get any force into it. He's not going to break a bone in my face, and I have the paperwork proving that I have a facial fracture and all the bills right here. I know he kicked me in the face. He definitely did. There's just no question about it. All the evidence points right towards him, and as I was on all fours, immediately after he kicked me, instantaneously, I stand up, Your Honor, and in the corner of my eye, I can see his profile. I turn around and confront him, and he looked like he saw a ghost.
You remember all that distinctly, is that
Yes,
right?
Your Honor. I've been thinking about this for a long time.
Now, before you got to the party, Daniel, had you been drinking?
No, Your Honor.
So, Daniel, I just want to understand this.
Yes.
Before you got to the party, you had not been drinking, and you don't remember where you were coming from. Take your hands out of your pockets. You do remember only that you got there at about 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, then you spent 5 to 6 hours drinking an assortment of concoctions that rendered you inebriated. So inebriated that your best friend wouldn't let you drive home. Then, all of a sudden, being totally inebriated, you remember distinctly everything that happened. Doesn't that sound strange to you, Daniel?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Any lower,
Daniel,
I'd have lost all my
Daniel.
teeth. Any higher, I probably would have lost an eyeball.
Daniel.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's very possible that he
And you
kicked
can
you.
still
Listen,
see the discolor.
Daniel,
Yes.
don't drink if you can't hold your liquor.
And later today,
Did you ever go to the towing company to try to get your car back? You
I
shouldn't.
was stupid.
Listen, well, so what do you want from me?
I
I'm not
want-
here
I
to
want
make you
the-
smart, madam.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daniel Bryan says former friend Kyle Lineker kicked him in the face during a drunken argument.
You don't remember where you were when you were sober, but when you were drunk, you remember everything. You have a very interesting mind the way it works.
But there was no alcohol test that took place. There was no...
Listen to me very carefully, sir.
Yes.
What I said is exactly what you told me a moment ago. When you were sober, at 5 o'clock, you don't remember whether you were afoot or horseback, whether you came there from work, whether you came there from play. Then you drank for 6 hours, and then you have an acute memory of everything that happened, including a punch and a kick. Is that what you're saying?
Your Honor, I assure you I'm not lying to you. I don't...
No, I didn't ask you what I assure you're not lying. I asked you, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor, that's what I told you.
Now let's move on to you.
For one, when him and Joey were wrestling by our front door, my other roommate, Ryan, was on his other side, right to his right, and we were both pulling him off of Joey. And he said that one of the girls couldn't have kicked him because she had sandals on, and as did I, so...
Did you kick him?
No.
You were drunk?
Yes.
Were you drunk?
Yes.
Now tell me what happened when you took his keys and threw them away.
He became enraged, and we got into like a wrestling fight on the floor.
When you say it became enraged, do you remember what he said to you?
No, not exactly. I can't remember. It's still blurry for me. I do remember the wrestling part. I remember us wrestling around, and we fell to the ground. And I threw in a punch, but I didn't hit him in the face. I'm pretty sure I hit him in the back of the head during that. And then like 3 people tried to pull him off, and that's when we locked him outside of the house.
Nobody was angry with him.
No.
They were trying to protect him.
Exactly.
Daniel, nobody was angry with you that day, is that right?
Nobody was angry with me that day, no. But, Your Honor, I know he kicked me in the face. All the evidence points towards him, and I didn't kick myself in the face, and it was intentional and it was malicious, and it had nothing to do with what me and Joey were doing.
That's what happens when
if
you
Joey
get
had,
drunk, Daniel.
Your
That's
Honor,
what
kicking
happens
someone
when
in
you.
the face is
That's
wrong.
what happens when.
He could have killed me, Your Honor. People have died for much less. And any lower, I'd have lost all my teeth. Any higher, I probably would have lost an eyeball.
Daniel.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very possible. It's very possible that he
And you
kicked
can
you.
still
Listen,
see the discolor.
Daniel,
Yes.
don't drink if you can't hold your liquor.
You're right. I'm sorry.
There is absolutely no way to determine with a reasonable degree of certainty that you need in a court which of these people who were involved in this altercation caused your injury. The fact that you're giving me Einstein's theory of relativity and saying that when you're on the ground you can't punch somebody with enough force in order to get their body weight into it, so therefore it couldn't have been him that caused your injury, and therefore I must exclude him, is not evidence. Sir, listen to me carefully.
Yes, I had a phone conversation with him where he said, I admit I did not cause that injury. But I just...
No, sir. You're
can
not
ask me
following me. You don't know who caused the injury. You don't have sufficient clarity of memory in your drunken state to convince me that you can say that it was this young man that caused your injury. And if you want to make sure that you're not in that position again, I suggest that you're 25 years old and that you find something to do on a full-time basis or go to school on a full-time basis because it's time for you to grow up.
I agree. It was an irresponsible thing for me to do.
Right. Then don't come to court and ask the court to waste its valuable time when you've behaved irresponsibly. You were all drunk. You shouldn't have been drunk, and I'm not satisfied. May have been him, but may have been him is not proof here sufficient for me to find that he's guilty.
What if he admits that he did it, though?
What if he admits that he did it? To who did he admit that he did it?
I was hoping you'd break him down and the evidence would be strong enough against him that maybe he would come clean.
That is not my job, Daniel.
Yes.
My job is not to break him down. My job...
Would you like to see the paperwork?
I don't want to see the paperwork unless the paperwork has a confession. Does it have a confession?
No, Your Honor. It's just proof from the doctor that I sustained his facial
I
fracture.
believe that you sustained serious injury. You know what kind of serious injury you would have sustained if he would have let you drive home?
A lot of things could have happened that night.
Right. This time, you got drunk and you were injured. Fortunately, you didn't hurt anybody else. The answer is, don't get drunk. Getting drunk is stupid.
I agree, Your Honor.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's a strong guy. He's a lot stronger than me, so he's pretty determined he was leaving that night. And I was just trying to save him from doing something stupid.
Joey was trying to protect him. Kyle was viciously attacking him.
That's not true. I was just trying to get my friends from fighting.
It didn't need to come down to this.
I don't think Kyle kicked him in the face, but I was just as drunk as everyone else.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sailors versus Coffee Wick. Step forward.
Darla Sailors is suing 25-year-old Sally Coffey and her father, Paul Wick, for a refund on a 1996 Saturn. Darla claims she was sold a lemon.
Miss Sailors, how old are you?
32 years old.
How many cars have you had?
3.
New or used?
Used.
When you bought a used car prior to this one, were they always running? Were you able to drive them from where you purchased them home?
Yes, ma'am.
Because when you buy a car, what you want is a car that takes you from one place to another. If you wanted a geranium potter, you would buy something that just sat in your backyard and where you could pot geraniums, right?
That's right.
So this is what your lawsuit is about. You purchased a used car from the defendants for $400.
Yes, ma'am.
And the car, at the time you purchased it, was not running. So you had to tow it to your house or tow it to someplace.
That's correct.
And then you found out that the car was a real piece of junk. So you had to tow it to their house and you want your money back. They say you bought that car as is. It was a piece of junk when they sold it to you. That's why they sold it for $400. That's not what they say, but that's what I figure. And when you towed it back to their house, you damaged their garage door. So they are counterclaiming for $500. correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Let me see the bill of sale. Thank you.
I also have a letter that she mailed me the day I dropped the car off at her house. There's no mention of any damage, as well as I have pictures of the drop-off of the vehicle, Your Honor.
Well, that's about the counterclaim. Let's see about this.
Okay.
All right, Miss Sailors, I'm going to read this to you because I have a lot of cases to do today. This is a bill of sale. It's a very clear bill of sale. It says the seller warrants, this is what they warrant to you, that they have good title to the property, to the car, and they have full authority to sell the car. Do you?
Yes.
And that the property is sold free and clear of all liens, right?
True.
Correct.
Encumbrances, liabilities, and adverse claims of any nature. And then in big, bold letters, bigger than anything else on this bill of sale, it says that said assets, which is the car, are otherwise sold in as-is condition and where presently located.
Yes, ma'am.
They signed it and swore to it. You signed it.
With this sign agreeing to what is on the sign as it was sold. This sign says the engine runs great, that there's only 2 minor repairs. I have pictures of it on the car. That is where my grief comes in. She told me that my car would be worth $3,000 had I put a serpentine belt on it, and that's it, and a cooling system. She guarantees the engine running great.
No, she doesn't.
It's in the sign she put on the car.
No, she doesn't. She guarantees. Listen to me. That is what you call puffing. Engine runs great. A 32-year-old person who has owned 3 cars before knows that if you have to tow the car off their property, the engine doesn't run great. Because if the only thing that had to be fixed on this car was a belt, and then you could sell it for $3,000, these people don't look like idiots. Put on a belt on the car and sell it for $3,000. This is what you purchased, an as-is car for $400. Now, let me get to your counterclaim. It says, on August 3rd, you abandoned your vehicle on my property. I attempted to contact you and request that you remove the vehicle. My telephone calls were not returned. Consequently, I had no choice but to have your vehicle towed. It is now located at Rancho del Rio Towing. The telephone number is, the tow truck informed me you have 3 days to claim it. Subsequent to that, it will be sold at a lien sale. How come you don't talk about the garage door?
It wasn't something I intended on pursuing.
Good, perfect, so that you don't have to bother me with it now. The car was subsequently sold?
I have never inquired into
Did you ever go to the towing company to try to get your car back?
Well, I didn't have the money to go get the car out. She had it towed, and they wanted a tow bill, and that's all she sent. And she sent me the bill of sale the same day she sent me that. That bill of sale I got.
You shouldn't have.
I know. I was stupid.
Listen, well, so what do you want from me?
But
I'm not here to make you smart, madam. When you purchase a used car that says purchased as is, and more importantly, if it doesn't run, and that's the purpose of buying a car, to take you from one place to another.
Well, my
and this
mechanic-
car, I'm speaking, and this car you had to have towed.
Right.
From one place to another. It would give you a clue.
Your Honor.
Listen to me. You could tell me from today till tomorrow. You had a contract of sale. Contract of sale is you do not go outside the 4 corners of this contract. This is the only contract that exists. Not what was in the window, not what was in the window, not what was in your mind, not what was in their mind. Only this contract of sale. It's a cheap lesson. I hope you learn, and I hope everybody else out there learns.
Well, it was kind of like, it was misleading because she says the engine runs great. She said,
Madam, the engine didn't run. You couldn't even tell.
He
Put
told
your
me
hand.
not to tow it.
Does it look like you're losing?
I mean,
Can see. Nothing. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. Let's step out.
Michael and Robin Thompson are suing their former neighbor, Suzanne Statham, for making false allegations to Child Protective Services and for vandalizing their car.
Yeah, this is case number 334 on the calendar in the matter of Thompson versus Statham.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, you rented a house in a neighborhood where Mrs. Statham has been a homeowner for many, many years. According to your complaint, for some strange reason, she didn't like you and your family from the beginning and created a situation that ultimately ended in your moving from the house. You are suing her for filing false charges with Child Protective Services, vandalism, and for harassment. Ms. Statham says that while she acknowledges that she called Child Protective Services, she believes she had good cause to do that. And with regard to the vandalism, she said she would never vandalize your car. However, she has proof that you did vandalize her property, and she is counterclaiming. When did you move into this house?
January 2004.
And how many people moved into the house?
5.
Yourself and 3 children?
Yes.
How old are your 3 children?
5, 10, and 16.
Boys, girls?
2 oldest are boys, youngest is a girl.
Okay, so tell me about the first confrontation that you had, allegedly, with Ms. Statham with regard to these false charges with Child Protective Services.
The first was February 2004.
Is that correct, Ms. Statham?
I called. I don't remember exactly when I called.
Fine. Tell me why you called Child Protective Services.
I was concerned.
Well, tell me what made you concerned.
The reason I was concerned is because they would not be there when the boy came home.
Which boy?
It's the oldest boy. I was concerned about his well-being.
Well, tell me what made you concerned.
Because he was left out.
What do you mean left out?
They wouldn't be home when he came home from school. When it was bad weather, he'd be outside, sitting on the porch. I'd let him use my phone to call whomever, and they would come home and let him in.
Yes.
Then he told me that he was living in a tent in the backyard.
Yes.
Sleeping there.
When he said he was sleeping in a tent in the backyard, was the connotation his parents didn't let him in the house?
I kind of, you know, felt sorry for him. I did. I felt like it was, I don't know. He just told me, quote, unquote.
No. That's, they didn't say, well, I sleep in a tent in the backyard. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
No.
That Miss Statham, that
Okay.
didn't happen. If you were having a conversation with him and you were talking to him about other things, and he may have said, I sleep in the backyard in a tent, that's my own private space, I like it back there. That sounds more logical to me. Is that what happened?
Well, he told me that he was living in a tent in the backyard, and he liked it. And I said, well, isn't it cold back there?
And what did he say?
And he says, oh, I've got a lot of covers.
Yeah.
Okay, and there were so many nights that he was out late at night playing basketball that I heard him. And I was just concerned that he was out at 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Well, yeah, it's pretty snoopy. Shh. I'm just telling you, that's pretty snoopy. We're talking about a 16-year-old boy being out at 10 or 11 o'clock at night and saying to you that I sleep in a tent in the backyard and I sleep under covers and I'm very happy. You know, so did the Indians. Do you have teenage children?
I've had teenage children.
Did they ever do anything that was bizarre?
Oh, yes, they did.
A lot of things that are bizarre.
Okay.
Well, and now if they want to go out in the backyard and sleep in a teepee or in a tree house, you know, you're just lucky that they don't want their own condo.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then I did say something, you know, as far as I raised my children alone, and I latchkey kids had keys, and I mentioned it to Mr. Thompson.
What did you say to him?
I said, you know, like, if they're going to be latchkey kids, at least they could have a key.
For my own information, is there a reason why the 16-year-old didn't have a key to the house?
He loses keys, so we don't personally give him one. There's a lockbox out front with the key in it. And the time frame that he was left alone would be the time that we had to go pick up our other 2 children and then come back. So we come back usually around 4 o'clock. So he's not out all night long. It's only about 30 minutes.
Okay. I mean, I just indicated that I felt as if her interfering in what was going on in your house, because based upon what she says, there was nothing so untoward that, in my judgment, as a seasoned family court practitioner, would have inspired another neighbor to pick up the phone and call Child Protective Services. 16-year-old being out in the street playing basketball at 10 o'clock at night is not neglect, and certainly a 16-year-old who chooses, with parental permission, I gather, to sleep out in a tent rather than to sleep in the house is not abuse.
It wasn't a tent either. It's a shed, as you would call it.
With electricity,
Electricity, carpeting, a fan, a heater,
Why
TV.
was he sleeping out there?
Well, he would sleep out there when he wanted to, but he wasn't opening the lockbox to go into the house, so we created an environment for him in the back after school to go play videos, do his homework, whatever.
Have his own personal
Because
space.
it was a rainy season. We didn't want him outside, but he was too lazy to unlock the box. So that's a 16-year-old.
Right. Now, I want you to describe to me the other forms of what you claim to be harassment.
Okay. Several times there was debris all over our vehicles. A dead rat was put on our car in the morning. After the dead rat incident, we installed a surveillance camera.
This was in September 8th, when I went out to my car. We had already moved the basketball hoop because there were 18 reports to the county where our landlord called us and said, look, you need to move the basketball hoop from the street.
So it's one of these portable things that you put out there that
Correct.
really isn't supposed to be out there, so somebody called and complained. I assume that was you. I cannot, well, I can fault her. I cannot say to Ms. Statham, who acknowledges that she called the town, she probably called the landlord about this basketball hoop. If it's not supposed to be there, she's within her rights to call.
Right.
Okay. So she was not a good neighbor, but now we're going to get to the vandalism.
Right.
So you installed a video camera.
surveillance camera.
After
Now,
the dead rat.
After a dead rat. Now, Ms. Statham says there was no way she would vandalize your car. Tell me what you found on your car after you installed the video camera.
In the morning, the wife went out. She said there was rocks and debris all over the hood of the car. So I rewound the tape and saw Miss Statham turn her porch light off, come outside, have a cigarette, go through her garden, walk over to the vehicle, throw something on the windshield of the car, and you can hear it hit. And she brushes her hands off and walks back in the house.
I assume that since I see that tape there, that's something that you want me to see.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I apologize for her bugging you, and, you know, I know that she could do that because she, you know.
Because she did it to you, that's why you left when you were 16.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael and Robin Thompson claim former neighbor Suzanne Statham owes for harassment and vandalism to their car. Suzanne is countersuing, claiming Michael vandalized her front lawn.
Now, before I see the tape, Miss Statham, did you or did you not vandalize
I
their
did
car?
not.
That's all I want to know.
You can see her porch light's on. She turns off her light. When she comes outside, you'll see her.
Just a second.
There
You
she
see her
is.
they're walking over to the car, and you can hear it. You can hear it hit the windshield. And then she walks back into the house.
She always turns off her porch light when she goes outside.
The reason
to
my porch
smoke.
light is off right there, Your Honor, is because they have those bright lights on me right now.
What were you doing out there, madam?
Well, I had had a cigarette, and I was just checking, you know.
No. If you...
I mean, you can't walk out at 10 o'clock. I didn't do anything. I did not throw anything at their car, I swear. I didn't.
So, now you can tell me what kind of damage there was to your car.
We have pictures here of the damage.
Can I see, please?
Yes, ma'am. There's a 3-inch crack on the top of the windshield. We took a picture of the car far apart and closer in, and there's also a picture of the surveillance camera.
Did you file a police report, Mr. Thompson,
Yes,
after
ma'am.
this
We have a
incident
copy
of
of
September
that.
5th? Can I see it, please? Anything happen after that?
Yeah, there was an incident where someone went through our car. She screamed at us and our children about the way that our lawn was kept. She sent her son over to talk to us because she said some foul language to us, and we
And our
responded
children.
back to
It was
her.
bad language.
Oh, yes.
Well, that was the wrong thing to do.
So she sent her son over to try and make peace with us.
Is their son here? That's you? Stand up, please. Tell me your name.
My name is Sean Rafferty.
How long has it been since you lived with your mother?
Since I was 16, 17 years old.
Is that when you left?
Yes, ma'am.
Why'd you leave?
I was grown up.
You were grown up at 16?
I felt so.
Just a minute. So, and you think you were right?
Yes.
So if you wanted to live outside in the backyard in a tent, up a tree, in a subway, or any place else, that would have been okay. Because you're a big boy, you're 16, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, there came a time, according to the Thompsons, when you went over to their home in order to try to make peace. Why did you think you had to make peace?
Well, because the night before, my mom called and she was scared because he would back his truck into the driveway. So his headlights were facing at her and put his high beams on and leave them on. And I know my mom's a little nosy, as you said. So I know she's hard to live with. So I just walked over, knocked on the door, asked for the man of the house, you know, put my hand out to greet him, give him my name, and, you know, can we just let this be over? I apologize for her bugging you, and, you know, I know that she could do that because she, you know.
Because she did it to you, that's why you left when you were 16. Go.
But, you know, he didn't want to have anything to do with me.
What did, no. What did he say?
To say verbatim, I don't know exactly what
Well,
he
if
said.
you went over there, and I assume when you went over there, you were sober.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. He wasn't falling over drunk, but he did have something to drink. We don't drink.
Because,
We
Mr.
can smell
Rafferty,
it.
you got a little bit of a problem?
No, ma'am.
You do. Because it's early in the day, and I can tell you got a little bit of a problem, Mr. Rafferty. A little bit. So when you went over there, I doubt whether you went over stone sober. What did he say to you when he came over?
When he first came to the door, he said, basically, that's my mother across the street. And I remember saying, I'm sorry to hear that. And he kind of had an attitude at first.
No, what did he say? Don't tell me he had an attitude.
He was just kind of rambling on, telling me that his mother drinks on certain days. She's very nosy. She just wants you to cut your lawn the way she likes it. Clean up the trash from the side, which we cleaned out our garage, so our trash cans were full, so we had to wait till the next trash day. So she didn't like that fact. And then he calmed down, I guess, and, you know, tried to apologize for his mother.
And said, let it just go.
Correct.
And what did you say to him?
That's fine. Tell your mother, leave us alone. We don't want nothing to do with her. Don't talk to us, don't talk to our children, stay away from us. And we also sent her a letter to that fact.
Can I see the letter?
Yes, ma'am. This was sent on July 6th.
Okay. Now, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Statham says that she has a witness. I assume that would be you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's going to testify on her behalf that he saw you damage her property. Is that true?
No, ma'am. I say he's a liar.
Well, I'm going to be able to tell if he's a liar, because that's my job. And I'm usually pretty good at it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's a big old busybody, and she's a big old pain in the neck. That's what Mom is, and that's why you left.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael and Robin Thompson say former neighbor Suzanne Statham has harassed them since the day they moved in. Suzanne claims the couple was neglecting their son.
Okay. Mr. Rafferty, you can sit down. Tell me your name.
Richard J. Machado.
Where do you live?
Manteca,
Is that near where Miss Statham lives?
right next door.
You're going to describe something to me, something that you allegedly saw?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
In the early hour of the morning. I had got up to go to the restroom. Was about after 3 o'clock.
Give me the date.
The 17th.
Miss Statham, don't speak.
No. I got it written down on paper. 17th.
17th of what?
May, after 3 o'clock in the morning, and then her dogs start barking. Then I went to the window and raised the blind to see why they were barking. And Mr. Thompson was on the bottom of her driveway. I could see him come up the driveway and in a sweeping motion, throw some fluid out, and then walk to the edge of the property towards where his car was parked on her side, and dabbled around there on the lawn on the edge. There was arm motion, but he had his back to me. So I don't know what he was doing at that time, but I know that he was making motion. Okay. And then he was standing in front of it like he was admiring his work. And then
you saw this, and there are street lights out there. Is that what you're telling me?
Well,
I'm not asking you anything. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, yeah, because he has 2 spotlights facing her house, and then put a video camera in, and then to harass more, he even put a big sign in the middle of his lawn that says, "Vandal neighbor acquire within."
Miss Statham, I'd like to see the photographs of what you found when you woke up in the morning.
Okay.
And, Your Honor, we have a letter from Miss Statham. According to her, it happened May 14th.
The 14th was
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody clearly poured something on her lawn.
I understand.
I don't know. I can only get out something. Oh, it probably says wacko. K-U. C-K-U.
The 4-letter word, ma'am.
Oh, something really nasty. I thought it was
Right.
wacko. Oh, strike that. Okay, somebody clearly wrote in something caustic on her lawn. Mr. Thompson, I believe that would be you.
No, ma'am.
Well, you see, that's my job, because I have to make a judgment whether this gentleman is making this up. Now, why don't I think he's making it up? I don't think he's making up that it happened, because clearly it happened.
Oh, it did happen. Not by me.
I don't think that she did it to herself. That didn't happen. I don't think that he did it. I don't even think that her son, when he wasn't in total control, did it. So, it was you Maybe it was your 16-year-old son. Who knows? But whether it was you or your 16-year-old son, that's your responsibility. So somebody from your house did it, which was as juvenile as what was going on from her end.
But no, ma'am, we did not do it.
Well, you say no, I say yes. I have the last word because I'm the judge. That's what they pay me for. I also believe that Miss Staten threw something at your car. Now, she'll say she didn't do it. She'll say it didn't happen. And I'm telling her that I believe it did happen. I believe that the two of you acted like very bad neighbors, but I believe she started it. I believe that she's a snoop. I believe that she's a busybody. I believe that she probably didn't like the way renters were taking care of this house that was rented. All kinds of things, none of which is any of her busybody business. I'm not saying it's true, and I'm not saying she was right. I'm saying she's a big old busybody, and she's a big old pain in the neck. That's what Mom is, and that's why you left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's a busybody who's got nothing else to do with her time but mind other people's businesses.
But
that is not a lawsuit.
But she harassed us. And
listen to me.
No, CPS coming over not once but twice, pulling our children out of school, checking their bodies.
Listen to me. You're absolutely right. She says I was concerned over a 16-year-old.
No, she thought he was 13.
Pay careful attention to what I'm saying to you. You, A, have no proof that she called CPS twice. She acknowledges she called once, not twice. You have any proof she called twice? You have any proof she called twice? The answer is yes or no.
No.
All right. The fact that they took your children out of school is very unfortunate. She's a busybody. She's just been dressed down in front of 10 million people.
Yeah.
And she had no right to do it. That is not actionable unless you can prove some sort of malice, which you cannot. And the way you respond to that is not bleaching her lawn.
We didn't do that.
Okay, I find that you did. Did you move?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you happy?
Oh, yes.
Goodbye and good luck. Have a happy life. And Miss Staten, you're not always going to get neighbors that you like. Mind your own business. You're a big girl. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
22-year-old Jason Wilson is suing his ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old Jorge Mina, for medical bills and punitive damages from an assault. Jorge says Jason started a fight with his mom.
Order. All rise. Snuck up on me. Yeah, this is case number 381 on the calendar, the matter of Wilson versus Mina.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Wilson, according to the complaint that I read, you and Mr. Mania had been partners for some time.
That's correct.
And after the two of you went your separate ways, you had asked Mr. Mania to take care of your cat.
Temporarily, yes.
You ascertained at some point that Mr. Mania had taken your cat to the pound, and you went over to his home that he shared with his mother. I assume this is your mother,
Yes.
sir? In order to retrieve the cat's cage or box so that you could go and retrieve the cat from the pound.
Correct.
And at that time, according to you, Mr. Mania assaulted you. You have medical bills, you have lost wages, and you want to be compensated for the assault. Mr. Mania says that you became aggressive with his mother and that he was merely defending his mother.
That is true.
When did you and Mr. Mania officially break off your relationship?
It would be in September of 2004.
But you remain friends?
I would say acquaintances.
When did you ask him to take care of your cat?
That would be in August of 2005.
You called him?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And what did he say when he called you?
Well, when he called me first about the cat to me, he told me
Don't tell me what it was. Just tell me what he said to you, Mr. Mania.
the cat's alive. It's not dead anymore. It's alive. I want you to take care of the cat because I can't take care of it anymore. And I'm like, the cat's alive. What? You told me it was dead for the past 6 months.
Well, now it was alive. So he
Yeah.
asked you to take care. Shh. So he asked you to take care of the cat.
Yes.
Did he tell you why?
He couldn't keep it where he was living at that time.
Did he say it was a temporary arrangement?
Yes.
And you said okay?
No.
What did you say?
I said my mom didn't want any more cats. I already had one cat. I told him, don't bring the cat over. He kept insisting, I need the cat over. I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna bring it. I'm not gonna be home. You know, it used to be my baby, but not anymore.
So he brought the cat over anyway?
Yes.
Who was home when he brought the cat over?
My brother.
Is that right, sir?
Yes.
And you left the cat in August of 2005. Do you remember when in August?
August 27th.
How long did you keep the cat, sir?
2 days.
And what did you do with it?
Well, I told him to go and pick it up. I gave him more than 24 hours. My mom kept pushing me, take the cat. You know, there's too many cats here, take the cat. I told him, you know, you have until Monday before I take it. That happened on a Saturday night. I found the cat on Sunday morning, 1 in the morning when I came back. It was in the backyard with nobody's permission. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
I don't care whether you're in shock or not. We're going to get through this part of the story and get to the assault in a minute. So you brought the cat to the pound 1 or 2 days later.
Yes.
When did he come for the cat's cage?
Monday night.
So now tell me what happened, Mr. Wilson, when you got there on the 29th of August, 2005, to pick up your cat's cage.
Okay, I originally went to Jack in the Box where him and his brother work, and I asked for more items other than the cage. However, the cage was what his brother originally did not bring, and said, okay, well, George gets off at 10 o'clock.
Could we get over to who was home at the 29th when you went there to pick up the cage?
George and his mother.
And what happened?
They had just pulled up into the driveway, and I proceeded to walk towards the entrance of the gate to the driveway, and his mother became very upset because she never liked me and started yelling at me in Spanish.
She say?
I don't know what she was saying because she was speaking Spanish, and I just avoided her. George proceeded to walk towards inside the garage to get the cage for me, and his mother kept yelling and yelling. I did get out of line, and all I did say is I called her the B word. And so George came and charged after me and said, what did you call my mom? Striking me several times.
Where did he strike you?
In my face and in my head, on my head. And I ran towards the main street, and he ran after me. He caught me, basically, and started hitting me more, caused me to fall. I passed out. A neighbor seen me and came to my attention and waited for the paramedics to get there.
You have a hospital report?
I do.
You have a police report?
I do have some memos. It states that there was a police report made.
Let me see, please.
And this is the original hospital where it says alleged assault, where I was
Let me just see.
there for 2 days.
How long were you out of work?
It was from August 29th to September 29th, so a month.
Were you ever taken into custody, Mr. Mania? Any police officer ever speak to you?
Oh, they did at the house, but that's about it.
Did you pursue this matter with the police, Mr. Wilson?
I did not proceed to convict or press charges due to I didn't want to ruin it for him on becoming a legal resident, and that's why I didn't.
Step up, please. Your mother speaks Spanish?
Yes.
Can you tell me your name?
Yes, Your Honor. Samantha Lubrani. I'm a certified court interpreter.
Mrs. Mania, what did you say to Mr. Wilson when he came to pick up the cat's cage?
¿Qué le dijo usted al señor Wilson cuando él llegó a buscar la jaula del gato?
Estaba dentro de mi propiedad.
I was on my property.
Sin mi permiso.
He was on my property without my permission.
Yo le dije, ¿qué estás haciendo aquí?
I said to him, what are you doing here?
Él dijo, vengo a recoger esto, el cage del gato.
He said, I'm coming to pick up this, the cat's cage.
Se lo había dejado Jorge horas antes fuera de la casa.
We had left it for him. Jorge had left it for him several hours earlier outside the house.
I asked you what you said to Mr. Wilson.
Oh, al señor Wilson.
¿Qué estás haciendo aquí?
What are you doing
Only.
here?
What else did you say to him?
¿Qué más le dijo usted a él?
Nada más.
Nothing else.
I don't think I believe you.
Parece que no le creo a usted.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You just told me, sir, that the reason you hit him is because he called your mother a name.
But when he was saying that he was coming towards us, Your Honor.
Mr. Mania, she's a liar, and so are you.
And later today,
6 months, you had the car and didn't make a payment.
Go ahead, Jamil, explain to her.
Mr. Linares, if you talk out of turn again, I'm going to throw you out. You want me to do that?
No, ma'am.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Wilson says ex-boyfriend Jorge Mina owes for damages from an assault. Jorge says Jason called his mom a bad name.
I don't think I believe you.
Parece que no le creo a usted.
No hablo inglés.
I don't speak English.
Then how do you know what he said to you?
Entonces, ¿cómo sabe usted lo que él le dijo a usted?
Únicamente le dije, ¿qué estás haciendo aquí? Mi hijo le dijo en inglés. Únicamente.
All I said to him was, what are you doing here? And my son spoke to him in English. That was all.
And I'm telling you that I don't believe you.
Y yo le estoy diciendo a usted que no la creo.
I believe that you got into
Yo creo que usted sí
a shouting match with Mr. Wilson.
tuvo una discusión a gritos
Because you
No.
were unhappy that he brought the cat to your house in the first place.
que le había dejado el gato al principio.
You were unhappy with his previous relationship with your son.
Relación que él había tenido con su hijo.
No.
No.
No es cierto.
That's not true.
No.
Did Mr. Wilson call you a...
El señor Wilson sí le dijo.
Yes.
You want me to believe that Mr. Wilson called you a... because you said to him, what are you doing here?
Solamente.
Eso tendría que
That just to
preguntárselo.
answer my question.
So, contésteme la
Answer my
pregunta.
question. You want me to believe
Usted quiere que
that
yo
Mr.
crea
Wilson called you a name,
le dijo esa palabra.
and all you said to him was,
Que usted le había dicho.
what are you doing here?
Fue, ¿qué estás haciendo aquí?
Estaba dentro de mi propiedad.
I was on my property.
That's not what I asked
Eso
you.
no fue lo que le pregunté.
She's speaking Spanish. You do understand Spanish, don't you?
¿Sí entienden español?
Yes.
She speaks in the same dialect that you
El mismo
do?
dialecto que usted. Diciendo, yes,
Then
yes.
answer my question.
Entonces, contésteme la pregunta.
You want me to believe
Quiere que yo
that
crea
Mr.
que
Wilson
el señor Wilson
called you a
le
name,
llamó a usted esa
and
palabra,
all you
esa
said to
palabra,
him was,
cuando lo único que usted
what
había
are you
dicho
doing
fue,
here?
¿Qué estás haciendo aquí?
Es lo cierto.
It's the truth.
No. No. Now let's hear from your son. You got where I'm going, Mr. Mania?
¿Entiende lo que estoy diciendo?
Yes.
Sí.
I want you to understand this, Mr. Mania. When somebody lies to me once, I tend to find suspect everything else that they say to me.
I understand that.
So now I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
Did your mother just tell me the truth?
Yes, she did.
Then you and I are going to have a problem, Mr. Mania, with the remainder of your testimony, sir, because I don't believe your mother and I don't believe you. Did your mother like Mr. Wilson?
When,
Did she like Mr. Wilson?
at that point,
Yes.
probably not.
Did she like the fact that he brought over the cat to your house without permission?
No.
Did she give you a hard time about the cat being in your house?
Yes, she did.
That's what you just told me.
Yeah.
So then you want me to believe that when he came there, and according to your mother, he came to my property without permission.
He wasn't without permission.
Listen, that's what she told me.
Yeah, but he wasn't.
Just a second.
Okay.
That's what she told me.
Okay.
That all she said to him was, what are you doing here? That's what you want me to believe, Mr. Mania?
That's what she said, and that's when he got into it and say, shut your mouth, that, you know. And she was like, what are you doing here? What are you doing? And he said in Spanish.
No. I don't hear, what are you doing
Okay.
here? What are you doing here? That's two, what are you doing here? Do you understand where I'm going, Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Your mother was screaming at him. Yeah, she was. And he called her a bad name, and he should not have. No question about it. It was disrespectful. You understand that?
I do.
Doesn't give you the right to hit him.
I understand that, Your Honor.
And you hit him because he called your mother a name.
That and because he was there at the house without permission.
You just told me a moment ago he wasn't there without permission. You just said that to me, which means he had somebody's permission, because your mother just said to me that my son left the cage out for him.
That was hours before. Hours before.
What difference does it make? You said, come and pick up the cage. I'm going to leave it out for you. So he had permission. So now you're telling me that the reason you hit him is because he called your mother a name and because he was on your property without permission.
Yes.
You can't do that.
I understand that.
And you are responsible then for all of his injuries, because in addition to that, not only did your mother lie to me, but you lied in your answer. Because in your answer, you say, when plaintiff became hostile and aggressive towards my mother, he came at her, so I hit him.
He was when...
No. That's not what you just told me. That's what you put in the answer. You just told me, sir, that the reason you hit him is because he called your mother a name. You got angry.
But when he was saying that he was coming towards us, he was coming towards us, Your Honor.
Mr. Mania, she's a liar, and so are you. You either lied to me just now when you say that the reason you hit him is because he called your mother a name, or you lied in your answer. Because here you would have said to me, I became frightened because he became very aggressive. He came towards me in a stance, towards my mother, in a stance that I thought that this guy, who you outweigh probably by 25 pounds, was going to hurt me or my mother. So in self-defense, I hit him. That's not what happened, Mr. Mania. What happened is you got angry because he called your mama a name, and you hit him. And you got so angry that you chased him down the street, and you hit him again. And you're going to pay for his injuries, and you're going to pay for his lost wages, and you're going to pay for his pain and suffering, because you have absolutely no right to do that. Sticks and stones break your bones. Names will never hurt me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He wanted my friendship, so I guess the cab would have been a way to have a friendship with me or something.
He can't deal with his anger. He can't deal with the past.
It's been going on for a while, and I want it all to end, and I hope this will be the end of it.
I really honestly don't see it, but I'm going to pray.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Linares versus Rivera. Step forward.
Annie Linares is suing her former friend, Jamil Rivera, for the remaining payments on a 2005 Nissan Altima.
Miss Linares, you purchased a car. Shortly after you purchased the car, you realized you couldn't afford the car. Something happened with your job, I don't know. Mr. Rivera was a friend of yours. He had a very expensive car that he was renting, and so you worked out an agreement with him that he would take over the payments on your car and he would drive it. And within a period of time, a year or so, he would get a loan in his own name, put the car in his name, and you would be out of the debt that you had on the car. According to your complaint, Mr. Rivera paid for a while, then stopped paying, and the car was repossessed. You want the money that it will take to get the car back from the finance company.
That is correct.
Mr. Rivera says he was merely helping you out and you were going to lose the car anyway.
That is correct,
Your What kind of car is it?
It's a Nissan Altima 2005 Touring Series.
What were the monthly payments on the car?
$491.05.
How many payments did you make on the car?
I bought it in April. My first payment was in June, and I paid July and August and September.
And then Mr. Rivera took over?
That is correct.
What month did you take the car?
On July.
What month did you make your first payment?
On July.
She said she made 4 payments. She paid June, July, August, and September. She made 4 payments.
No, she didn't.
You have proof that you made 4 payments?
I made payments with my check for the car. The time he took the car was in September, and I recall it very well, Jamil, because my daughter's birthday was September 22nd.
Listen to me. Don't talk to him.
Okay.
Talk to me. Let's say he took the car in September. When did you stop making payments on the car?
Stop making payments around May.
Did you make all of the payments consistently? Because she has all the paperwork. So did you make all the payments consistently from September of '04, at least, until May of '05?
Yes, Your Honor. There were some of them were late.
How late?
A month.
Well, that's a lot late. That's not
correct,
late. Late is a day or 2 or maybe a week. Late is not when you have to double up payments.
Correct.
You bring me proof that you made those payments?
No, I don't have the proofs right now because I was rushed to the airport.
What, are you kidding me? If you don't have proof, sir, it doesn't exist. What you do is when you know you're being sued, you gather up all your stuff and you don't go to court until you have it. When were you notified of your court appearance, sir?
Approximately 2 weeks ago.
So I'm going to repeat again, Mr. Rivera. If you don't have the proof that you paid from September '04 until May of '05, it doesn't exist. When did he stop making payments?
The last payment was made on May of '05 for $900. And the check of June and July bounced.
So when did you last have the car in your possession?
In November '05.
Well, if you last made a payment, according to you, in May of '05, what were you doing with the car in your possession in November of '05?
At that time, I did call the company, and I called the dealership as well.
I don't care if you called the King of Prussia. What were you doing with the car in your possession, sir, if you didn't make payments May, June, July, August, September, October, 6 months? You had the car and didn't make a payment.
Go ahead, Jamil. Explain to her.
Mr. Linares, if you talk out of turn again, I'm going to throw you out. You want me to do that?
No, ma'am.
Well, I will. I will. You did the wrong thing. Say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I didn't do the right thing to her because we had an agreement, and I didn't follow through with my agreement, and there was no excuse for it. Because if I couldn't afford the car, I should have returned it to her in May.
Well, she acknowledged that.
Listen to me. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. If I couldn't afford the car, I should have returned it to her in May.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's better. Now, how much do they want now for
Well,
you to
they-
get the car back?
They want the 6 months that are
That's
owed.
$29.46.
They want the late fees, delinquency, and collection charges.
You have a paper from them? You driving another car now, Mr. Rivera?
At this point, yes.
What kind of car are you driving now?
It's just a Honda Passport.
Where'd you get it from?
It's just a car that I lent from a family member.
What kind of work do you do?
I work in a bank right now.
In a bank? Doing
Yes,
what?
ma'am. Financial advisor.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a national bank?
Yes, ma'am.
There that you work in a bank, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,700. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Calvin Mountjoy and his fiancée Tracy Barrows are suing Calvin's children, 20-year-old Amanda and 25-year-old Kevin, for an assault. The couple claims the defendant showed up at their home and started a fight.
Now, this is case number 161 on the calendar in the matter of Barrows, Mountjoy versus Mountjoy. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Barrows, this is your fiancé, is that correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Mountjoy, these are your 2 adult children.
Correct.
You are divorced from their mother, and this would be their mother. All right, we're just getting the players going. Who are you?
Brother.
But not involved in this incident.
Somewhat, yeah.
In any event, according to your complaint, these 2 young people were having some problems with you. They believed that you were crank calling their mother, so they decided to come over and discuss it. And it is your claim that they assaulted you. The defendants say that they were the ones who were assaulted, not you, and their mother has a claim against you for damaging her truck, which they used to come over to your house. Is that right?
They used my truck to go there.
So, while the assault case has not been filed against the mother, I would like you to stand up with your children because I have some questions for you. How long have you and your former husband been divorced?
2.5 years.
And how long were you married?
23.
And I assume you don't get along.
I don't talk to him at all.
Did you talk to him while you were married?
I liked being married to him when I was married to him.
Okay. Now, there came a time, sometime, I believe in April of this year, when you started to receive telephone calls.
Yes.
Tell me about the phone calls.
They were just hang-up calls.
When did they start?
Mid-March.
Did anything happen in March between you and your former husband and his fiancée?
No, we've been going through some court hearings for contempt of court.
For?
His non-payment of spousal support.
At some point, I assume that you discussed these hang-ups with your children?
On one particular day, I called actually to my ex-husband and basically asked him if he'd called me, and he said no. And I said, maybe has Tracy called me? And he said, well, why don't you take it up with her? And I said, no, I don't take anything up with her. And by that midday, Miss Barrows called me screaming around, maybe 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the date that I had spoken with my ex-husband.
And what did she say to you?
Well, first thing that came out of her mouth was, who the f do you think you are? And I hung up on her. And she called back again and indicated to me, nobody's prank calling you. Here is my number. You keep my number for the next time I have to call you. You'll know it's my number coming up.
Now, when did you discuss this with your children?
About a week or so later, on the 25th of April, my son and I were having lunch. And in the middle of our lunch, a phone call came in. And I looked at it and I thought, well, gee, this is a 916-825 number. I answered it, I said, hello. And I said, what do you want? And nobody answered, so I basically hung up. So that evening, I was talking to my daughter. She'd come over and I told her Kevin and I had lunch, and today the phone rang. And she basically pushed the green call number, the call on my cell phone, and it dialed back the number, and I guess Tracy had answered the phone at that point.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. I just kind of recognized her voice right away that it was her.
What did she say?
At first she goes, like, hello, like, you called me, and I'm like, well, I'm just trying to figure out if it, whose number it was, and I said, and apparently it was her. And she goes, oh, just, you people need to get a life, and just kind of went off right after that. And I said, no, I just basically called a phone number trying to figure out who it was, and to my surprise, it was you. And I think it made her upset that I was actually, you know, just saying that.
Then what happened, Amanda?
She just kept calling. She just kept calling like 3-4 times, yelling at us, hollering about move on, and just calling me names. And
I want you to get to the point when you went over to their house.
The phone calls continued from her. My father had ended up calling one time. He goes, "You guys need to stop harassing us. You need to stop bothering us. We're not prank calling anybody." I said, "Dad, you're being crazy about this." I said, "Can you just hear me that all we did was push the number on the phone and it was her." I said, "We're not trying to call anybody." And I think the conversation before was that my mother was going to call their boss just to leave us alone. That's when my father had called. I think maybe he was upset that we were going to call his boss. After she was done with us, she'd called to harass my brother at work.
At what time did she call you?
It was about 8 o'clock in the evening.
And who did you speak to when they called?
The first person that spoke with me actually was my dad. And he says, "Well, I want to know if your mom and sister are prank calling Tracy." I told him I don't want anything to do with their affairs, flat out.
Perfect. What happened next?
My dad didn't speak long, and he's like, "Well, I want you to talk to Tracy." I told him I'm at work. I can't do this stuff. She gets on the phone. She said, "You listen here." And I said, "Well, don't start talking to me like that." And she goes, "Look, you retard. You need to start listening here." She was telling me that she's going to see that we're emotionally, economically, and socially ruined.
And your father was with her at the time?
I believe so. He stopped talking. She took the phone.
Mr. Mountjoy, did you call your son at work?
Yeah, I called him just to kind of see what was going on with this whole phone call situation.
And where were you and Miss Barrows at the time?
We were in the backyard.
Did you ever hear Miss Barrows say the things that your son ascribes to her?
No, that's not the way she is.
Miss Barrows, you heard what this young man says that you said to him. Any of that true?
No. I've never spoken to these children that way.
How long have you been engaged to their father?
We haven't actually even set an official date, but we've been together 3 years.
Was your relationship with Mr. Mountjoy the reason that his marriage terminated? Were you separated at the time that you met her?
We had known each other for years.
Just to say shh. The answer is?
No. Obviously,
No.
she said she put the math together just now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There's nothing wrong with my hearing. There's nothing wrong with his hearing. That's what you said. You said they were pushing, and your sister, uncross your arms, and your sister punched her in the face.
Yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Calvin Mountjoy and his fiancée, Tracy Barrows, claim Calvin's children, Amanda and Kevin Mountjoy, assaulted them. The defendant's mother, Kathy Mountjoy, is countersuing for vandalism to her truck.
You came home from work at what time?
I'm not exactly sure. It was about 8:30. I left work early. I was so upset. I was almost in tears. I was out of it. I left. I have problems with emotions and things like that. I just, had a rough time with it. That's why I asked them to leave me out of their affairs completely.
At what point did you and your sister decide to go over to their home?
We went to my mom's. My brother was there. My brother tried to call my dad. She wouldn't let my brother talk to my dad. So we said, forget, let's go see Dad.
Who went over?
Me, my brother, and my sister.
So the three of you went over?
Yeah.
What happened when they got there?
I was in the backyard. He came to the back and said, "The kids are here." And they were standing at the end of my driveway, all standing like this, all three of them.
No, we weren't.
And
don't speak.
At this point, they had harassed us all night long. Nicholas called my home phone when he couldn't reach his dad on his cell phone, and my 13-year-old daughter answered it, and he called her because he thought it was me. So at this point, I walked down to them and I said, "You know what, you guys are on my property. You better act right." Well, they all got in my face and started screaming, and that's when Amanda caught me totally off guard and just slugged me right in my face.
Uncross your hands.
And she cold-cocked me. I flew back. Calvin ran to protect me, and before he even got to me, Kevin jumped on him. Amanda ran behind her mother's truck that they had parked over there. I called 911.
Do you have a 911 report?
Yeah.
Can I see it, please?
It's attached to the restraining order that I got against Amanda. At this point, Kevin dragged his dad out into the street and had him in a chokehold. Nicholas intervened and pulled Kevin off of his dad. Well, then Nicholas turned on his dad, and his dad's trying to fight both of them off. Everyone's running around. It was just pure pandemonium. It was crazy.
Did you have any injuries as a result of this?
My eye was bruised, my lip was fat, My nose was bleeding.
Did you take any photographs?
I have one photo of my face 3 days after.
I'd like to see it.
And we also have phone records proving that we never called them.
I'd like to see your cell phone.
I have mine and Calvin's phone records going all the way back to February.
I'd just like to see April. You have your phone records?
No, we don't have paper phone records.
Okay. Now, what was the number, Miss Mountjoy, that you say came up on the phone?
Or I don't call them. I don't know the numbers by heart. If I had my purse with me, I'd be able to look at my phone and indicate which phone.
On the 25th of April, 209-506. Who is that?
It's me.
You called him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Every time she answered and hung up, and then there's a couple of those where I left messages before I left to let him know that we were coming to his house.
Oh, yeah.
Just a second.
Messages.
You called and said you were coming to the house, but that wasn't until after 8 o'clock, sir.
Yeah.
That wasn't until, I'm talking about 7 o'clock. Whose telephone number is 209-85?
That's mine.
You called your father 1, 2, 3, 4 times that evening. Your mother can sit down now. You can stand up. You were there. Now I'll hear your version of the story.
We wanted to talk to our dad. That's it.
Well, why didn't you wait until things cooled off and speak to your father the next day, perhaps the three of you calling him and saying, listen, Dad, could we meet for lunch? Because we would like to talk to you.
Because we were upset.
Right. Speak. Don't speak. That's what your mother should have told you. Because clearly the three of you don't have a judgment among you. There are lots of people that get divorced.
Can we speak?
Yes. But try to listen to what I'm saying to you.
We understand, but this whole time, with her side of the story, we don't get to tell ours. And
Listen
all it
to
sounds
me.
like
It's very easy. They did not come to your house.
That's not her
that,
house.
That's not her house.
That is where they live.
I was invited to dinner just that weekend before.
Listen to me.
Like nothing was wrong.
You don't get it. You were invited there for dinner the week before, which is a nice thing. On the night of April 25th, you were all going there because you were upset and angry.
Even if
now,
we waited till
you
the next
go,
day, she
you
still
get
didn't
into
answer
your
the phone.
mother's truck, and you go over to the house so that your father shares with his fiancée. And who's going to tell me what happens?
We go over to his house. We're calm. We want to talk to him.
You're not calm.
Okay. Well,
Don't tell me you're calm, because that's a lie.
We're not calm. We're upset.
Right.
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine.
Okay, good. But we go over there. My brother goes up the driveway to see my dad. He has the garage door open. He comes out and puts his arm around my brother, says, what's going on? Then we get out of the truck and we go up there. He's asking what the hell's going on.
Just a second. That's not true. Because according to your mother, and according to the testimony that I've heard, your father said, I haven't been calling you. Your mother said, well, what about Tracy? And he said, I know about Tracy. Speak to her about it. So your father wasn't in a bubble. He knows what's going on. I have the phone records here to prove that.
Tracy comes out of the house and starts pushing my sister and calling her and all these other names. My sister's getting pushed. My sister pushes her back, and she punches Tracy in the face.
No, I
Well,
Don't speak. I'm not talking to you now.
And
So far what we have is the two girls pushing each
they're
other.
pushing each other. Yeah.
And your sister punches her in the face.
No, that's not what happened.
Well,
Did you hear what I said? I said don't speak. He's telling me, I'll hear you.
Okay.
That's what your brother said. That's what you said.
Okay. So.
There's nothing wrong with my hearing.
No.
There's nothing wrong with his hearing. That's
She-
what you
she
said. You
gets-
said they were pushing, and your sister, uncross your arms. And your sister punched her in the face.
My dad goes over to my sister and hits her in the face.
He hit me first.
So I grabbed him, and I'm holding him down on the ground. I go to let him up, and he tries to kick me as I'm getting up. Well, my brother gets in between us and tries to break up my dad and I and get everything straightened out. Well, my dad's chasing me back to the truck, so my brother gets in between to break us up. My dad tries to grab my brother and pick him up, but he can't. So my brother picks him up and throws him to the ground. My dad is screaming and yelling and kicking the truck. He has my brother pinned up against the truck. The cops come. The cops tell us nobody's pressing charges, just don't have anything to do with each other anymore. Everybody agrees. We're not even 5 minutes down the road. Tracy already is calling my brother's cell phone and already called my mom. So
actually, their dad had called them when they left. I called Kathy and left her a message because she never answers her phone, and I told her, you know that you caused all of this.
Just a second. Well, if you left her a message, it would be on the machine. Where's your cell phone? Where's the machine?
My cell phone. I erased all the messages from
Why
her.
did you do that?
I didn't know it was going to come to this.
What do you mean you didn't know it was going to come to this, madam? You alleged harassment on the telephone, and you have something that would clearly support your statement that you've been harassed on the telephone and you erased the messages? You're too smart for that. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. How could you have avoided what happened that evening?
I could say
No. How could you have avoided what happened that evening?
what she wants to hear is, we shouldn't have went.
Right.
That's not right.
That's right. That's what could have avoided all this stuff. Because the fact that you live with your mother, and your mother is angry that your father is no longer there, clearly impacts upon the peace in your home. But that's an old story. That's a story that, put your hand down, that I've heard for 30 years. The question is, if you wanted to avoid trouble, you shouldn't have gone over there that night. So it was your fault. It was, no, Miss Stupid over here doesn't think it was her fault, but I'm telling you it was your fault.
We can't even call him, even if we
Listen
did call
to me.
to have dinner with him the
He
next
works,
day, she would answer it.
No. Your father is not retired and he's not in a convalescent home. He has a job.
No, she works there. She answers the phone.
She answers the phone?
Yeah, she's the secretary.
She's the secretary.
Just a second. So you, just a second.
And I'm not a secretary.
What are you?
Do you have, let me tell you something. He doesn't love your mother anymore. Get over it. That doesn't mean he doesn't love you.
He doesn't.
That doesn't mean he doesn't love you.
He doesn't want to see us anymore. That's basically what I want to hear.
You are so fixed and so limited that it's going to be impossible for anybody, including me, to get through to you. The only thing I can say to you, the three of you together, is if you had not gone over there, stop playing with yourself. If you had not gone over there riled up on April 25th, this whole thing would not have happened. If you had taken a deep breath, counted to 10, and said, tomorrow, if I want to talk to my father, who looks like a very nice man. You look like a nice man. If you don't think he's a nice man, that's up to you. Don't have anything to do with him anymore. But don't go over to his house at 9 o'clock at night where he lives, belligerent, upset, and the first blow that was thrown came from her. That's what your brother said. No. That's what your brother said. That's not what she said.
He hit me first.
No, listen to me. That's not what your brother said.
The only reason he restrained my father is because my father hit me first.
I don't care if your father hit you.
Well,
I want to tell you something. If my 20-year-old daughter came over there in a belligerent way, I would have given her a good crack in the face, too. And I don't believe it because that's not what your brother said. So, I don't know, quite frankly, Mr. Mountjoy, what value it is, other than the fact that you've gotten it out of your system, it is to sue them. Can I give you monetary damages? Sure. Can I say to you, you've been vindicated that they were stupid to come over there that evening? Absolutely. On your lawsuit, each one of them is going to give you $10. And they've gotten my response to what they did. Now I'm going to deal with their mother's car. Their mother's car should never have been there, and if it was dented that night as a result of this altercation, then their mother's going to fix it. You're not going to fix it. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Go home.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
19-year-old Marcus Mahaffey is suing his estranged mother-in-law, Patricia Strong, for setting his clothes on fire. Patricia denies the charge.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 167 on calendar in the matter of Mahaffey versus Strong. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Mr. Mahaffey, the defendant is your mother-in-law. You are currently separated from your wife. I assume this is your wife.
Yes.
And you have one child together.
Yes, ma'am.
I gather from your complaint that you, your wife, and your baby were living with Miss Strawn in her home.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there was some altercation involving you and your wife and your baby. You claimed that you left, and after you left, Miss Strawn burned your clothes.
Yes.
Miss Strawn says she did not burn your clothes, she put them out on the curb. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did your daughter and her husband live with you? From when to when?
They're going to be married 2 years in September. Pretty much the whole time they've been with us.
And when did you leave?
May 23rd on a Monday.
Tell me what happened.
I had my mother pick me up from work.
Did she always pick you up from work?
No, ma'am.
Why did she pick you up on the 23rd of May?
I had no ride at the time.
Okay, she picked you up from work and dropped you off at your house?
My house was at her house at the time. I got there, and I asked my mother if she wanted to see our son, Ethan, and I told her to wait 1 minute. I went up to the front porch after arriving at the house.
Why did you tell her to wait? Don't they get along?
To some extent. There's been some problems, arguments.
There'd be no reason why she couldn't have came in.
Okay, go ahead.
I went up to the front porch, and what I saw was Ashley and a couple of her friends smoking marijuana on the front porch, and my son was running around in the middle of them.
Where was your mother-in-law?
She was at work at the time.
Is this the first time that you saw your wife smoking marijuana in front of your son?
No, ma'am.
Was this a frequent occurrence?
Yes.
My daughter did. That's my pot.
Don't shout out again. I let you do it once.
Okay.
But don't do it again.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Put your hand down.
After seeing what I saw, I had asked for Ashley to ask all her friends to leave at the time.
Well, you probably got angry. If what you say is true, you probably didn't just ask. You probably got angry and you were shouting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you were shouting, and what did you do?
I told her I was going to my mother's house to stay for a little while, so I had picked my son up, and I did not want him to be around.
You picked him up and you walked outside with him?
Yes.
And you went to the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What happened next?
I asked my mother if we could come over there and stay for a day or two. She said that's fine. We had left and went to the house, and when we arrived at my mother's house, Ashley had called me and told me to give her back her son. And I said, not with you smoking marijuana around him. Until you can stop, then you can call me.
All right. Miss McCafferty, I'd like you to stand up, please. You remember going over to the Strawn house on the 23rd of May?
Yes, ma'am.
When you went over there, when your son came back, he came back with your grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what he said to you when he came back?
He simply stated that they were up there smoking marijuana and he didn't want his son around it. And
did he use the word marijuana?
No, ma'am. He pot.
Okay.
And asked me if he could come over to the house and stay and bring the baby, which at that point I told him yes.
Okay. Keep going, Mr. McCaffrey.
After we arrived at the house, Ashley had called me, and she told me to bring back the baby. And I said, no, not with you smoking. And after that, she had hung up on me. And I called Patty at work, and I had told her what she was doing because before I had called her, Ashley had already called her at work and said that I had kidnapped our son.
Well, that's not possible.
And after that, I talked to her for about 20 minutes or so, and she said, why are you doing this? Ashley does not smoke. She hung up.
Ms. Strawn, are you thoroughly convinced that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana?
Well, actually...
Just answer my question. Thoroughly convinced?
Yes.
All right. There's a very simple way to find that out, Ms. Strawn.
She's been tested. They turned her into defects.
Has she done a hair follicle test or just a urine test?
The urine test. She passed 5.
Just a second. Has she done a hair follicle test?
Nobody suggested it.
Very easy. We can take care of that.
Well, you'll have to do it to him, too, because he's bad as she is.
No, just a second. I'm not interested in him right now. I'm interested in your daughter. Urine test is nothing. But a hair follicle test will demonstrate when you smoked, how much you smoked, and it stays in the hair follicle for up to a year. So you understand that if I order a hair follicle test, if your daughter consents, the results of that test can be sent to any domestic relations court when there is an issue of custody and or visitation. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Now go and discuss with your daughter whether she's prepared for us to take a sample of her hair and send it to our laboratory. Go ahead.
Like
go
I
ask
said,
her.
ma'am, if you
go,
do it to him,
no,
too.
just, he's not an issue.
Really?
Yeah. Fine, we'll do that. At the conclusion of the hearing, we'll do that.
Well, what does that have to do with what the case is about, ma'am?
Well, it has a great deal to do with the case, madam, because what you're saying is that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana, therefore the story that he just told me about going up to the porch and seeing her is a lie. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm saying, well, there's a very easy way to figure that out. It has nothing to do with whether he smokes marijuana or not. It's whether your daughter did, and you are committed to the fact that she does not.
Right.
You want to smoke dope, that's your business, but don't smoke dope in front of your child.
I don't, ma'am.
Or be around friends who do.
We weren't smoking pot, ma'am.
What were you doing?
Sitting there talking, and he took the baby without a car seat and left. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, told me to come and get him.
Does he smoke marijuana?
Yeah, he smokes crack, too.
Just a second. Smokes marijuana? And you never... Stand up. Stand up. And what you're telling me is you never did it with him?
Yes, ma'am, I will admit to that.
All right. That's all I'm asking you, my dear. So your mother is mistaken. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
She's been. That's all I wanted to know. That's it. That's the issue. Now you can sit down. You got it. Your daughter does smoke marijuana. She didn't tell you, but she smoked it with her husband. She says he smokes other things, too. I didn't ask her about the other things, but she clearly smokes marijuana. Now we understand each other, Miss Strawn? Oh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're supposed to stay out of it. This genius picked this genius. The only problem... Well, this is your genius, Miss Strawn.
And later today...
Do you have anything you want to say to me, sir?
He can't say nothing.
I'm not speaking to
well,
you.
He's not going to say anything.
I'm not speaking to you!
Well, I'm speaking to you. I'm telling you, he won't say nothing.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marcus Mahaffey says his estranged mother-in-law, Patricia Strawn, owes for burning his work uniforms. Patricia claims Marcus is making up a story.
Now, let's get back to your burned clothing. Go! And get there fast, because I have other things to do today.
We arrived at the house after her calling me, and I talked to Patty.
So you brought the baby back. Keep
Yes,
going.
ma'am. And that night, when I was talking to Ashley, I heard Patty in the background asking for marshmallows. I asked why they want marshmallows. Did they have a fire going? Ashley said, yes, they're burning your clothes. They want to roast marshmallows over your clothes. And I did not believe her. So the next day, on the 24th, I went over there to see for myself. Patty was not there. Ashley refused to show me any clothes. I just happened to walk down the driveway, and I smelled something burnt, a distinctive smell.
Is that burnt clothes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You want to show me one piece of the burnt clothing? I don't have to see the whole thing.
Your Honor, who's to say that he didn't burn his own clothes?
Me.
After everything he's done to me.
Me. I'm to say.
Okay.
I'm to say. Because I read your answer. Shh. Got it. Okay, you can put it away. Okay. Ms. Strawn says that she took your clothes and she put them out by the curb.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I did.
You can't do that.
Why?
Because he's a resident of your home, and you have an obligation to hold on to his property until he comes to get it, unless he... Put your hand down. Unless he abandons it. You have no right to take his clothes and put them on the curb, because if you took them and put them on the curb and somebody else came by and burned them, you would be responsible. You have no right to do that.
But he has never so much as paid a cent living in my
I don't
house.
care. You allowed him to live in your home for 2 years. I'm speaking to you. He lived in your home for 2 years. Don't get in the middle. You're really dumb if you get in the middle, especially if you have 2 children who are babies themselves, and I probably believe you that both of them smoke pot and whatever else. So it's very possible that you 2 mothers-in-law and grandmothers are going to have to be responsible for this baby at some point, because certainly they're not responsible. And I would suggest that you try to maintain reasonable relations. He's allowed to take his child.
No, he's not. There's a TPO
No,
against him.
listen to me. At the time he took his child, there was no custody order. And in this country, the United States of America, one parent does not have any priority over custody over another when the 2 people are married.
But it didn't have anything to do with him pulling up with pot. He wanted the baby, had his mom waiting in the driveway. That's what he did.
Miss Strawn, you weren't there. And the fact that you are so committed to the baloney story that you have concocted in your head, because I believe her when she says that when he came back with the baby and said she's smoking pot on the driveway. I believe he said it. You don't believe it?
I don't, ma'am.
That's your problem. In any event, you have to pay for his clothes. How much were the clothes worth?
The total for the uniforms was $508.
What kind of uniform?
My work uniforms.
What kind of work?
The job he doesn't have anymore.
Mechanic.
You really...
He just got out of jail, for God's sakes.
You are really thick. You really think you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you?
I'm paying attention.
No, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is you're supposed to stay out of it. This genius picked this genius.
Yeah.
The only problem... Well, this is your genius, Miss Strawn. If he's no bargain, that's her problem. This genius belongs to you. She made a baby with him. He's not going to be out of your life. And that doesn't give you the right to vandalize his property. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $508. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was the right decision because what she did was wrong.
I don't care what he says. I didn't burn his clothes.
I wasn't smoking pot in front of my child.
My wife was on the phone, and I heard her in the background saying that she was burning him.
That's not even true because Ashley wasn't even there.
That's hard to get young people to handle situations in an adult manner.
He's crazy.
There will be nothing between us except for my son, and I'm going to try to get custody of him.
He's not going to get him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nuno versus Torres. Step forward, please.
Juanita Nuno is suing her daughter, Carolyn Torres, for a loan to bail her grandson out of jail. Juanita says she may lose her home to foreclosure.
Ms. Nuno, this is your daughter, and according to your complaint, you made your daughter a series of loans. She hasn't paid you back. Your daughter says, yes, it's true that you gave her some money. They were gifts. You do that to all your relatives, and you're singling her out for repayment of these gifts because she had a fight with your other daughter. Is that right, Miss Torres?
Yeah, that's right.
What did I just say?
I owe her money, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They're gifts. To me, they're gifts. I heard what you just said.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Did you have anything to drink today?
No, I don't drink.
You use any drugs today?
No, I don't.
Well, then explain to me what your problem is, Miss Torres.
I don't have a problem.
Who is that?
My kid's father.
Do you live with him?
When I want to, I don't know, when I want him there, I guess.
Step up, sir. What's your name?
Anthony Torres.
How long have you been with Miss Torres?
About 20, 21 years, off and on.
Do you work?
Yeah.
Does your wife suffer from a disability?
No.
Well, is there something wrong with her today? She seems to be out of sorts today.
Well, because I don't think she should be suing me, that's why.
Why did you agree to come here?
I don't know.
Did you discuss coming here with your wife, Mr. Torres?
Yeah.
Why did she come?
Because it's a lawsuit and she needs to come.
Juanita Nuno says her daughter, Carolyn Torres, owes for a loan for bail. Juanita says she posted her grandson's bond after he was arrested for burglary.
Now, if you've been with Mrs. Torres for 20-some-odd years, then you are the father of this young man who got himself into trouble last year?
Yes, I am.
And the first loan, according to you, Miss Nuno, was for bail for your grandson.
Yes, it was.
What was he arrested for?
The jack broke into a school.
So he was arrested for burglary?
Yeah.
Did you call your mother and ask her for bail?
Yeah.
What did
But
you say
he called
to her?
her first, though. He called, and I called after.
Who called?
I think my son called first, and then my niece called me, and then I called her back.
And when you called your mother, what did you say to her?
Bail him out. I don't have the money.
And what did she say to you?
She said, what happened? I explained to her what happened. The jack broke into a school, so can you bail him out? She does everybody else, so I figured she'd do him.
Why didn't you bail him out?
Like I said, I don't have the money.
Well, how do you support yourself?
By his child support checks.
Well, you live together. Why does he send you child support checks?
Well, when I want to get, I'll call him. He doesn't really live with me.
Miss Nuno, you really expect her to pay you back?
Yes.
From what?
She applied for Social Security, and she was supposed to...
What was the nature of her disability?
She has arthritis in the spine. That's inherited. It comes down the line. All of us have it. So she applied for Social Security disability.
Yeah.
And they were going to grant it to her. All she needed to do was take a physical exam.
So you expected her to pay you back out of her disability from the government?
Well, not only from that, but from my son-in-law. And I believe him because he never lies.
Well, did he promise to pay you back?
He said he would pay me back. He would pay the bonds people, so that would be good enough.
Is that right, sir?
Yeah, that's right.
So why didn't you pay her?
I intend to. I just haven't had the chance to do it.
It's a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. When are you going to do it?
As soon as I can.
So after they didn't pay you the $1,600, 6 months later you gave her another $2,000. You want to tell me why?
Because I beat her daughter. That's why. That's exactly what happened. She lent me money to move out because I beat her daughter for stealing my child support check.
No, Judge Judy.
Yes, that's what happened.
I bailed Anthony out in November.
You got $1,600, Ms. Nuno. What's the $2,000 for?
For getting me out of her house. I was staying with her for 2 months.
Why were you staying there for 2 months?
Because my stupid son, we lost our house in Redlands, so I had to go move in with her because of what he did.
How many other children did you move in with?
5.
How old are your children?
15, 14, 10, and 3. And my son, Anthony, and that's 18. He's 18.
You have a 3-year-old child?
Yes, I do.
How did you, with your terrible disability, have a 3-year-old child?
I guess. I don't know how. Well, how else am I going to have a kid?
Judge Judy, you wouldn't believe it. You will not believe this. I had her put in a convent in Mexico. I had tried to educate her day one, and you know...
That's what she went wrong when she sent me to Mexico. She never should have ever sent me to Mexico when I was 10 years old. Never.
Do you have anything you want to say to me, sir?
He didn't say nothing.
No.
I'm not speaking to you.
Well, he's not going to say anything.
I'm not speaking to you!
He still won't say nothing, though.
I'm not speaking to you.
Well, I'm speaking to you. I'm telling you, he won't say nothing.
Listen to me very carefully, Ms. Torres. You've already shamed yourself in front of a lot of people.
I don't care.
You have a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old who can all understand everything that's going around them. I feel very sorry for them, and I guarantee you that if you live alone with your children now, I'm putting in a call to social services to go and monitor your home if these children are, in fact, living with you. Are they living with her? Are the children living with her?
Yeah.
Well, somebody's going to monitor it. You're not there, is that right?
Most of the time, no.
Listen, Ms. Nuno, there is no question in my mind that having spent 10 minutes with your daughter, you had no reasonable expectation that that $2,000 was going to get repaid to you. Maybe the bail money, because you say that you had confidence in your son-in-law, and he says that he agreed to pay you back and he just hasn't gotten around to it yet. Mr. Torres, you have to find something to do with your time other than make children, sir. You have enough children. You have 5 children. And based upon what I've heard, you're not doing too well. And neither are your children. So you have to find some other way of occupying your spare time, like getting a second job, so you can support everybody, so they can all live together and not scam the government anymore. Do you understand me, Mr. Torres? This is all one huge scam you've been living with her. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,600. That's all. Step out.
Why is our excuse? You may step out. This one.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Trong video hôm nay thì mình sẽ chia sẻ đến các bạn những thông tin về mức lương của người lao động khi chúng ta đi xuất khẩu lao động tại Bỉ. Và điểm hấp dẫn người lao động khi làm việc tại đất nước Bỉ mà các bạn cần biết đó chính là mức lương của chúng ta khi đi xuất khẩu tại đất nước này. Và trung bình thì một lao động phổ thông khi đến đất nước Bỉ làm việc thì có thể nhận được mức lương cơ bản là 1.000 USD một tháng, tương đương hơn 22 triệu Việt Nam đồng. Và đấy được coi là một mức thu nhập tốt, cao hơn nhiều so với các công nhân làm việc tại Việt Nam. Và ngoài ra, nếu như các bạn làm thêm giờ vào ngày thường thì các bạn sẽ nhận được 150% mức lương cơ bản theo giờ. Còn nếu như các bạn làm thêm vào cuối tuần hoặc là các bạn làm thêm vào các dịp lễ thì con số này sẽ tăng lên 200% cho đến 300% mức lương cơ bản. Và người lao động thì sẽ có cơ hội nhận được các loại phụ cấp, nhận được tiền thưởng nếu như các bạn làm tốt, hoàn thành tốt công việc. Do đó, nếu như các bạn chăm chỉ, chịu khó, làm việc có hiệu quả thì người lao động của chúng ta có thể nhận được từ 30 cho đến 50 triệu Việt Nam đồng trên một tháng. Và thời gian làm việc tại Bỉ càng lâu thì mức lương mà người lao động của chúng ta có thể nhận được là càng lớn. Bên cạnh đó thì còn có một số lợi ích khác dành cho lao động khi chúng ta đi xuất khẩu lao động tại thị trường Bỉ. Đó là thuận lợi cho việc di chuyển giữa Việt Nam và Bỉ, cơ hội định cư của các bạn và gia đình khi được sống tại các quốc gia hiện đại phát triển top đầu của châu Âu. Ngoài ra thì các bạn còn có cơ hội khám phá, trải nghiệm đất nước tuyệt đẹp, đó chính là đất nước Bỉ. Vậy là trong video hôm nay thì mình đã cung cấp cho các bạn một số thông tin về mức lương cơ bản cũng như là thuận lợi khi người lao động của chúng ta đi xuất khẩu lao động tại thị trường Bỉ. Và cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi video của mình và hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong những video lần sau.